Hello, everybody! If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, it's my own little canary. We keep him in ambush and bring him out whenever we need to. It's Tyler. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Man, good to be back. Good to be here with the one and only Chuck Moore.
That's right. The truly I would say Chuck. Welcome back to the show, number one. Number two, when Marathi has to leave Har-Curon for some reason, I have no doubt that she leaves it in your careful hands, for she knows that you're the only one she can trust to watch over it. Welcome back to the show. Daughters of Khaine, player extraordinaire, Chuck Moore. What's up, buddy?
Thank you. It's pretty generous. I was kind of jealous that Tyler was the canary, but after that, I think I'm pretty good.
Yeah,
Marathi's
absolutely.
trusted advisor.
Sure. You're like a shadow stalker or something, somebody she really trusts. Teleports in,
Yes.
teleports out. There you go. All right. Have a safe flight, Martin. We hope you travel safe.
Yes,
All right.
travel safe.
Well, tonight we are going to be talking about the Daughters of Khaine 2022. They're back. Guess who's back? Back again. That's right. Daughters are back. Tell a friend. So, but first, of course, the news.
News, rumor engine. I'm on the
Books
show.
on a scale.
Yeah.
That's,
Uh,
do I win a prize? I have properly identified the thing. It is a group of books on a scale. What do I win?
Probably more 40K rumor engines in your future.
16 internet points
Yes.
and 3 influencer points.
Yes. All right.
Ooh.
Nailed it.
Excellent. I got to treasure those influencer points. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. This could be literally anything. This falls into that cadre of rumor engines I've talked about before, where you know exactly what it is, and it tells you absolutely nothing. Right? It is 6 books on a scale. And it's like, okay.
Is it some 40K Zinch, demon that's weighing the scales of books, or is it just some sort of throwaway piece that you can put on this random AdMech person as a
Right.
Yeah. Or is it terrain? Is it just more
Or
terrain?
it just could be terrain, could be an AOS thing, could be like a Blood Bowl thing where this is all the rule books or something, all the different rule books, right? Could be anything. Could be a boat.
Yeah, must be one of those, Vince.
So it's everything and nothing all at once. There we go. All right. What's next, Tyler?
Let's see, AOS Worlds. So AOS Worlds finished up, was taken out by England. France was second. Sweden, Denmark, Poland rounds out the top 5. US came in 8th. And wanted to give a shout out to, I'm not sure how to pronounce her first name, Ronya Anderson.
I think that's
He
right.
went upstaging Tom Lyons. Sorry, Tom. She went 11-0 at Worlds across singles and doubles, with Nighthaunt having the best win rate at the entire event, as far as I can tell. Just amazing.
Remarkable journey to follow. I mean, and even though we didn't win it, congrats to Team America. Seems like you represented us well, and all in all, it looked like it was just a great event. The coverage was wonderful. It's just thrilling to kind of just collect, all the little stories that were going on too through Twitter and the coverage on Rob's channel.
Agreed. It's not a form of Warhammer I have any interest in whatsoever. That weird teams format. That's such a, as I've said before, it's such a clearly weird European thing. But it was good. It was good games, awesome players, awesome people. I mean, it's awesome to see Warhammer just being enjoyed and shared and played that much. It's at such a high level, and yet everybody being an awesome sportsman, everybody giving it their all. That's fantastic.
I do appreciate the little digs you saw between the team Twitter accounts between rounds, on the nights where someone was playing Team Italy the next day, so they sent a video of them cutting spaghetti. and just
Sure.
tag team. Like those were the best.
That's good stuff.
Yes. Darren Watson had a great thread on Twitter. Just yeah, I can't remember what his positive victim maybe.
Yes.
It was just an amazing Twitter thread. Yeah, where he thanked a lot of people and talked about the experience, and yeah, it's really cool. So yeah, congrats to England.
Yeah,
Very
congrats.
nice. What else we got?
Cry next box set. I've been a little out of the loop, so you want to share the details on that, Vince?
I do. Well, I'm assuming it's the next box set. I will say I don't. They didn't like directly say that, but they more or less said that because they introduced this guy, who's up on the screen right now, our little walking on stilts carrion guy man, and basically, by the way, these stilts would absolutely not work. These would break and shatter his ankles in literal seconds. This is
Center of gravity. You need the center of gravity.
yeah, that's not how stilts work. You can't just tie a stick to your leg with some shoddy ribbons. Like, not at all how this would work. He would have 2 broken ankles. It would look like misery up in here the second he started walking. But anyways, this is Nurgle Warcry band that this is the first guy we're seeing. And what's interesting about that is 2 things. It's a new Warcry warband, which is cool. And also they pretty clearly said they're Nurgle aligned in the article, which would mean we have the first like directly sort of God marked thing. And they also said that we're moving the sort of center of play here to in Thondia in some swamp place, Gnarlwood. There we go. I got there. Into the Gnarlwood. And it's going to be these guys against the Horns of Hashut, who are basically the Horns of Hashut are setting up industry and trying to log the forest and, you know, create forges and stuff. And these guys live in the forest and are trying to not let that happen. So some more hot chaos on chaos action. There you go.
So at least it's great conversion bits, you know. Even if you're not really like fully into like the Warcry, like bringing it into Sigmar for some reason would be great.
Sure. I mean, I will say I do not like this fig at all. No offense to whoever sculpted this, but this one's not for me, dog. Zomfir, master of the pan flute over here with his this thing in front of his face. The stilts, his little ropey hook, which again, I'm trying to figure out like the actual mechanics on this thing of how exactly that works to any good, like, does he cast it like a fishing hook? If so, how, like, it just, none of this makes any sense. I can't handle it and I don't like it, but that's all right. Hey, I hope somebody likes it. But yeah, excited to see more Warcry stuff, of course, because if we're going to get a new, assumingly, maybe these guys are the sort of launch factions for the quote unquote potential new edition of Warcry that we, if the 3-year cycle holds, will launch this summer. So maybe we're going to have these dudes in the Horns of Hashut being the 2 launch factions, and this will be the launch box. I don't particularly care about either of those factions, but I'm excited for more hot Warcry action and more potential Warcry warbands, especially from other forces. So there you go. All right.
Nice. And then you had on here quick Echoes of Doom thoughts. So the new Sylvaneth and Skaven box set.
Yeah. Since I can talk about this now. All right. So here's my quick thoughts on it. Because it's not big enough to do a whole show, and obviously we'll cover all this stuff whenever the actual Sylvaneth and Skaven battletomes come out. But my initial thoughts on what I saw in that box set, specifically the new characters, just so everybody has it on record, is I quite like the Lady of Vines. I think at her price point, she's great, fantastic even. I wouldn't call her necessarily an auto include, but because there's a lot of people who might be arguing for that spot, especially come new book time. But I'm very happy with her and think she's an excellent character and does a lot of stuff the army needs, including being a double caster, which is awesome. And just good all around. Good spell, good abilities, cool stuff, great fig, A+. Like, well done. So I love the Lady of Vines. The new Deathmaster, our single new sculpt for Skaven. The figure I love is amazing. Like the actual model is amazing. He is overpriced for what he is right now at 170 for that kind of a melee character. But his little 6s do D3 mortals ain't nothing. I had this dude, I did use him in a game just as a test, and I had him run around and kill he went on a tear and just started murdering everything. So I did enjoy that, because if you just roll slightly hot, boy, will he just rip through things, which he did. The new bell is interesting because you're not actually... the new bell is actually really interesting. I think a lot of people don't like the new bell because it doesn't have its Battle Shock immunity aura anymore, and the Peel of Doom changed pretty massively. I don't like the Peel of Doom on a D6 and with a shorter range, but that's not like the bells. That's just sunk cost fallacy. The bell is awesome. Let me explain why the bell is awesome. The bell is awesome because all the bell is you paying for a cheaper Vermin Lord that's a double caster / priest before you get the Vermin Lord out. That's all it is. So you just now, the bell needs to be pushed aggressively forward with some dum-dums around it to keep it moving. And just let it get wounded. Just let it get knocked around and beat up enough so that you can just auto-summon a Vermin Lord. And what do you lose? You lose the stupid peel that isn't very good anymore until it's really in close. And you lose the spell that the Grey Seer can cast, which is a terrible spell anyways, and always has been, and somehow has skipped being redesigned yet again. One of the worst spells printed on any War Scroll on any character. I don't know why they think it's good. I don't know what type of Warhammer they play, where whoever wrote this War Scroll. But hey guys, most of the game flies or has a high movement. Like 8 inches is probably the new average movement in the game. So rolling 2d6 against that to only the non-flying things is real bad. It's super bad, guys. You get that, right? Like do you get it? That spell is horrible? You will never cast that? Okay, cool. I've went on that rant now. But anyways, all you're doing with the bell is... Sorry, yes, single caster. Thank you, coach. Yes. Single caster / priest. All you're doing with the bell is pushing it around and using it to... It can push out spells. It becomes a good Arcane Tome recipient in its current form. But it's really just a free Vermin Lord. That's all it is. It's just summoning a free Vermin Lord. You're just trying to cash it out to get a Vermin Lord. And then if the bell's still around, fine, let it do whatever it does for the rest of its time. Because I assume when the new book comes out, Vermin Lords will get buffed. And if Vermin Lords get buffed correctly... as they should be, because they should be basically greater demons. So if they get buffed, then they will be expensive. So hence paying $265, if the points remain the same, for a bell that very quickly turns itself into a rat while still sticking around. It's not like you necessarily lose the bell. Is a good deal. So there we go. Love the bell. Okay, there is my Echoes of Doom quick thoughts. It's just a different bell. It does something different. You got to play it differently to get the value out of it now. It's not just a tower that sits in the back and gives everybody around it Battle Shock community. It's got to go get in the mix.
Sure. That was it?
That was it.
Yeah.
All right, there we go.
News endeth. Thus endeth the news.
Nice and simple.
All right. Gentlemen, let's turn to some pick of the week. We'll start with Chuck. Chuck, what would you like to share with everybody?
I want to give actually 2. The first is over to my buddy fit_hammer over on Instagram. He's really he does what I do in a weird sense. He loves fitness, and you see, like, if you follow me on Instagram, you see that I play him often because he lives local. We've been friends for a while, but he's really pushed it into a business end, and he does nutrition coaching as well. So go over there, check him out, give him a follow if you have any interest on getting in better shape through nutrition and fitness. And then while you're there, follow me too, because I could use a few followers. Self-plug. The other pick, I just want to give a shout out. My channel, not necessarily me specifically, because I'm trying to figure out exactly what I want to do with my content, which has been kind of just there. I haven't really focused it in any way, which is why I haven't grown, and I know that I'm not worried about that. But my really good friend Matt and his co-host and also good friend Cole, they've been doing the Big M's Power Hour, and I put it on that platform, the Strength Hammer YouTube channel, and really it's been the thing carrying the content on that channel for a while, and it's very, very interesting. The reason it's just them and not me is because with my playtesting, I don't want to go there and have them not be able to talk about certain things. Like just ramp it, talk about whatever you want. It's kind of like their outlet for it, and they do a really good job. So I mean, go give them kudos and go check them out. Even if you don't care about my stuff, go check out them on my channel. It's a weird, I guess, plug-in here, but
I like it. No, it's no issue. You can self plug. Your channel's already linked down below. I'll tell you right now because your U.S. Open Seattle video is linked down there. So there you go.
Mhm.
So people can find that. Tyler, give us your 52 picks of the week.
Did I only have 52? Let's see. Reroll ones. They had a nice battle report, narrative battle report, apparently, because Jack decided to play 7 heroes in that one. Daughters of Khaine versus Fire Slayers. It was nice. There was no Marathi. There was no 15 bow snakes. It was a cool Daughters of Khaine list. Enjoyed that. It was short, as well as Grand Alliance Death. They both did some good Doc Battletome reviews. So if you can't get enough hearing talking heads talking about Daughters of Khaine, it was short. Actually, it was an article. So that's a nice change of pace. Yeah, Grand Alliance Death is a really small new channel. Check them out. Couple of guys just going through battle tomes. Yeah, I enjoyed their commentary on the book. And then a couple of mentions. There's been some nice coverage of Vault Wars, which I'm really appreciative of. 2 Plus Tough had a great review about a week ago. And the Die is podcast. The Die is Cast YouTube channel guys that do all the battle reports. Actually, today is their 1-year anniversary. So congrats to those guys for that. They had a little episode talking about their experience of Vault Wars, as well as going over the 2 new battle tomes. See how quickly I can get through my 52.
Buddy, I am beyond impressed. It's great. It's really great stuff. So for I say that, Tyler, what's funny is I have a ton of picks of the week down there too.
Oh, excellent.
We're all sinners. I can't cast the first stone here. I want to give a shout out to this small channel. It's coming up. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's 2 Plus Tough. They did a great little video. He and Brendan Melnick, no, Doug and Brendan did a hilarious video called Weekly Warhammer, parodying us, which was great and made me laugh.
Wonderful.
And what's funny is like Doug is such a nice guy. He reached out to me first and he was like, "Is this okay?" And I couldn't stop laughing for like 10 minutes. And I was like, "Yeah, man, it's more than fine. It's hilarious." And
Quickly,
then of course, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say on that, Vince, I don't know if I've shared this idea. Chuck, I want to have a tournament where the TO knows every attendee well enough to create incentives or, customize for particular players. So obviously with Doug, the incentives is oriented around him playing Nega Doug. Like he's got to play Nega Doug in a battle round and he'll get something amazing for it, or for an entire game. Yeah.
I'm all for that because I do that with some of my local crew on things. Like actually my buddy Fithammer, right, with my shout out, because he's cut is all get out. Like his arms look phenomenal. Mine are big, but his are amazing. So I'll like throw out random challenges to him, be like, okay, every picture we take today, you can't flex, and he'll just be like, ah. So I like this idea, turning it into a tournament format. That's genius.
There you go.
Yeah, there could be something there. All right, sorry, buddy.
No, you're fine. I already mentioned Chuck's channel and the U.S. Open, Seattle U.S. Open, so go check that out on Strength Hammer. And finally, our good buddy, Haywo, the man, the myth, the legend, back into AOS content. Not only does he have Haywo, I hope everybody is also subbed to Haywo Plus, because he does also have the Haywo Plus channel. But anyway, he put out his new Every AOS Army in 31 Minutes video. We're creeping up in time, but we're getting more armies. Fantastic video, and then he also uploaded 2 director's commentaries, or I guess SJRK did probably. So if SJRK's the one who cut those, thank you, SJ. Onto Haywo Plus, so you can actually watch the director's commentary for the whole thing and all of that. Fantastic videos all around. Okay. Very good. So, with that, gentlemen, let's get to some hobby time. By the way, if you haven't yet hit the like button, hey, why don't you click that like button and or subscribe? It's fun. If you like Daughters of Khaine or hate Daughters of Khaine, hit the like button. YouTube will know which one it means. Okay. Hobby time. Tyler, how many units are you now committed to painting?
We're up to 11. Yeah.
11.
It's
11.
yeah, that's a pretty big number. I mean, that's probably that's an army. That's 2,000 points, I bet.
It's a
Oh, it's
unit
certainly
unit
an
per
army. Yeah.
unit per table, right?
Unit per table, Chuck.
Okay, because I have
Yep.
most of a Thondia box doing nothing in my basement right now.
There you
Yeah,
go.
man.
Hmm. Might maybe we'll get this to 12.
And Chuck, I get to choose what I paint, so there's no skinks. There's no nonsense that I'm going to be painting. But
You
yeah, if
painting
you
is
want to,
enough.
okay.
It can be Army of Gotreks, and you can go on the Rerolling Ones channel with it.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've said you're do you want to talk about what you're leaning toward, Tyler?
Yeah,
with
it's
your
going to
painting?
be Nurgle, and then depending on how the new battletome looks with Sylvaneth, it might be trees. I figured those armies would take up the slap shop pretty well. And my friend Luke Meyer, he completed this gorgeous. I mean, it's the best slap chop looking army I've ever seen. He completed it in 10 days with a wife and kid and a job. And so anyhow, he's gonna help show me the ropes, and got some other painter friends who might be willing to help show me the ropes as well. Maybe we'll see. Never know with them. And yeah. So anyway, I got a Nurgle Vanguard box.
You say that like I haven't been sitting here for literally 2, 3, 4 years saying like I will teach you how to paint if you want. Like for years, pre-pandemic, Tyler, I was telling you this. You wrote out the entire pandemic just with me right here, and you'd be like, nah. I'm just saying.
Hi. I would like to learn painting. I only have some of the best painters in the world at my disposal. Nah.
So
Later.
I'm glad to hear it. Nurgle's a great choice. Nurgle really is a fantastic army, especially if you're learning to paint. It's a very forgiving army. It takes to a lot of techniques really well. And you if you mess something up during the painting process, who cares? Because you can just go back and cover it over later with like Nurgle's rot or blood or disease or rust or verdigris or it's just like always more layers of junk on Nurgle. Yeah, just dirt from your yard. So there you go. Hey man, Zach. Oh wow. Well, okay. Hope you're having a good time over there, buddy. All right. So the so let's talk about
hobby.
Chuck. Talk about Chuck. What are you doing with your hobby? What have you been painting?
I added another unit of Incubi to my 40k Drukhari army, but we're gonna set that aside because that's 40k. We don't care about that here. Painted some Canary, a bunch of Doomfire Warlocks, and I have to say, as someone who has a lot of horses in my old High Elf army, and I love horses as an animal, as a model. For some reason, horses are so boring now. I struggle to get through 10 Doomfire Warlocks, which aren't hard models to paint. That aside, 10 more Sisters of Slaughter. That's a 5 Canary, and right now, I did the Van Denst. I bought them and add some accoutrements to make them fit for my Daughters of Khaine army specifically. But now I'm working on my Bundo Whalebiter proxy using the 40k avatar on top of like a giant skull and the Whirlwind Endless spell from Daughters of Khaine is like wings on the back, so he's like a blood angel. Yeah. So that's on my desk right now. I'm not going to show a picture of it until it's done because I did a little bit of work on it today, and the whole thing is ugly face. I think it's going to be ugly face until it's completely done.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Look, there's no problem with that. Sometimes models got to look bad before they look good. That's just life.
Yeah, and it's been a while since I painted such a large model, so it's kind of fun to get into that too.
Yep. All right. Okay. So for my hobby time, I've been a busy little bee. So first off, there's this lady, all painted up. So there's our Lady of Vines. She'll be a video. These will be way in the future. So there's a lot of other stuff in between now and then, just because of everything else I've had to be working on recently. But yeah, so there's her.
Is that a 100 or?
What is she on here? Let's see. I think she's on an 80.
80?
Yeah, 80.
Yeah, Skeleton Prime says.
Yep, she's on an 80. And then also, we can't do her, of course, without having Pachow out of the darkness.
Yeah.
So the little Death Master as well. So I got both the heroes painted up for the box set, and both of those will have various and sundry videos associated to them. So yeah, And I'll tell you, I really like her fig, the Lady of Vines. I really like the Deathmaster too. Like they really knocked it out of the park on both these heroes. So A+ on that. Great models. Absolute pleasure to paint both of them. Okay. Well, with hobby time out of the way, and me pestering everyone to hit like again, if you haven't already, then I think it's time to talk Daughters of Khaine.
Yes.
All right.
Finally.
We're here. It
It.
took 25 minutes, but we're here. As the title slide says here, Daughters of Khaine 2022. Somehow, we're here again.
Mm-hmm. My cat in the background's excited if you hear her. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Couldn't really. Now, before I get into my summary, as always, gentlemen, I'd like your 40,000 foot view. Tyler, what's your take on this book?
Still a very solid book. Still A tier if you want to go in that classification. I'd say personally to me it strikes me as primary spike, secondary to me, meaning that if you're interested in efficiency, this is an excellent book for you in terms of winning games. Secondary to me because you can lean into, for example, a heavy snake build. They're beautiful models, clear theme. Wrathy is one of the defining to me models, I'd say, in the game that you can have fun with. I think there's some subtle money options that you can lean into if you want to do a little bit more work for your wins with Daughters of Khaine. Hopefully we'll get into that a little bit. The design is pretty linear. That is, the synergy pathways are pretty clear from sub-faction to sub-faction in terms of the synergies, sub-factions, command traits, and so on. I think it's still a hammers and screens template for a lot of the standard list. You have your, 15 bow snakes and your 10 melee snakes and Wrathy, and you need a number of screens to protect your key pieces. I think they've gone further into both the glass side and the cannon side, so they're less durable and they're more potent, especially in combat. There's more items on the menu, which is cool. Wrathy and the 15 bow snakes are absolutely still on the menu. There's some subtle different decision points, I would say, within the book when you start getting into some of the details, which is nice. All in all, it's a solid book. Yeah, it's not my personal cup of tea as far as the footprint of it. It's maybe not quite as Johnny, as my personal interest, but you can lean into that and I think have a good time. So yeah, really, overall, good book.
Okay. Chuck, what do you think of this book?
I mean, let's get the meme out of the way. It's a perfect book, except for the fact that Teyrathi's not in here in any way, shape, or form.
Sure.
Yeah. Honestly, this 2022 somehow I've been in this mode since this came out with playtesting, because even when it came across in playtesting, it was kind of, really? So soon? Not that I was mad, but it was,
Sure.
oh, like it was kind of unexpected, but still, it was nice. It's a nice modernization of it. I'm glad to see a lot of rerolls went away, and in some ways that's a bit of a nerf, but in other ways it's not, which, I mean, we'll see as we go through with a lot of the, especially the battle traits. But all in all, I love the fact that Witch Elves and Sisters of Slaughter are back. It's not just about Morathi and the Bow Snakes. I'm glad Morathi and Bow Snakes are still there for the most part. I could see everyone's argument about maybe changing Morathi's command trait to be melee only. But also, I mean, that's what we have with the Slaughter Queens. They have that already, so what would they do then?
Maybe once per game.
You could move the snakes to the wounds. There could have been 5 different things. We didn't do any of them, so it doesn't matter. Right. We could have picked any of Rhodes. We didn't do any of them.
There'll be so obviously that will be looked at with other levers, not within a specific book. But still, I'm glad of all the changes. I think there's some very, very unique and fun things we can do inside this book now that a lot of books don't have. My low-key favorite is the Draichi Ganeth, because I love that new lever of extra reinforcements. I absolutely love that. When I came across, my eyes lit up because I can do 90 Witch Elves again. It's not my Kraith, but I love running 90 Witch Elves because as soon as that was gone, I felt naked on the tabletop because I was just so used to that. So I obviously I'm a big fan. That's why you brought me on for this. But I love the nuances and the differences and how sub factions matter a lot more, even though there's less of them, I guess, per se, as far as like it's changing one tweak. It's not a tweak, a command trait, an ability, an item. It's just here's what this faction does, and then as Tyler, as you said, you know what to do from here. You know where to lean into.
Yeah. Okay. Boop. My summary. Good book is still good. There you go. Some small changes to Marathi and the Bow Snakes, but lots more incentives for other build. There are multiple valid options across the book now. We'll talk a little bit about Marathi and the Bow Snakes, later on. But like let's talk about it around the Marathi scroll, shall we? Let's time our Marathi and the Bow Snakes discussion to her. I think this is a Timmy Spike army. I agree with your read, Tyler. I actually think it's just 50-50 right down the line. Okay. I think it does continue to be a fairly linear book. I agree with that. It is still a buff and go army with lots overlapping synergies and that kind of thing that allow it to punch above its weight. However, it's not a buff a Death Star anymore, because it used to be you kind of had to throw everything onto one. Given the buffs now, you actually are a little more incentivized to kind of spread them out to multiple units and strike at multiple places in the enemy at once, which is good, actually quite good. And there's some interesting new mechanical options for various playstyles. Autumn, I see you asked the question, about does this feel like a patch or a new book? I mean, it was worth a new book. Yes, it does contain enough that it was a valid new book. I mean, if you're asking me, should this have gotten a book before Gitz got a book? I mean, no, I can't morally defend that choice, right? But but there's a lot of armies that need new books. I mean, there's like probably 6 armies that just desperately need a new book right now. And if it wasn't for the situation in the world, my guess is we would have had all of them right now, plus more. But here we are. So it is what it is. And judging it on its own, it did clean up, clarify, and open a lot of valid new venues for play styles. It got rid of a lot of bad words, bad rules interactions, and things like that, and smoothed a lot of things out to make it a much, much, much more enjoyable play experience. I mean, to put it in the simplest terms, I really did not enjoy playing Doc under the last book. I do enjoy playing Doc under this book. So something enough changed there for me to enjoy the book. That's my honest take. Like, I have run this in 2 games now and had a good time in both games and really liked the way the army felt. So, for whatever that's worth. Okay. Right on. Let's get into the book itself. Let's do this. Okay. Allegiance abilities. All right. So, coming off of Night Haunt, it's a different story, but still good. It's just Night Haunt has the most overweighted allegiance ability section in the world because all their troops are garbage. This book has has higher quality troops to start with, but then also has a lot more buffs existing in other places that they can put on them, so they don't need to all be packed into the allegiance abilities. All right, so let's go through these. Here we go. Temples of Khaine, blah, blah, blah. Yes, they still exist. Cool. We'll talk about them when we talk about the sub-factions. Battle Fury. A heroic action you can carry out with a Doc hero that is not a monster. You pick one of instead of your normal heroic actions, pick one of their weapons, add 2 to the attack's characteristic. Okay. Cool. Good. It's perfectly fine.
I've had some use on a high gladiatrix.
Oh wow, that's a bold choice.
Just take off some of those heroes with that role. I mean, how I play, I'm willing to take those risks, but that's where I tend to like to put it, actually.
I actually really love this on the Slaughter Queen on Cauldron for reasons we'll talk about later when we get to her. The Slaughter Queen on Cauldron has always been maybe one of my favorite units in the army. I just love the whole silly concept of the thing. I do love that the daughters, because of apparently magical blood that flows through their cauldrons just get to walk around on their own. But our Skaven, magically infused, chaos-empowered warp bending screaming bells have to get pushed around by other rats.
In the lore of this new tome, they explain it much better than they ever have before.
Sure.
As it's the cauldrons are being drawn in for the anticipation of blood. They want to be full, so they're almost sentient in a weird way.
Yeah. Hey, all good, man. I'm not angry at the daughters for doing it. I just want the bell to be able to drive around on its own too. That's all I want. Okay, but hey, here we are. Go ahead.
Subtlety. Yeah, I think you may have said pick one melee weapon. It's all melee weapons. Now, of course, I don't know, but I imagine that the cauldrons are still classified as a mount. You guys know if that's okay.
I don't actually think there's anyone who has multiple. Well,
the Medusa.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. The Medusa would be the one who would benefit multiple times. Yes.
Marathi as well, because it does not specify you cannot
put
do
on
this to
Marathi Kane.
You put it on little
Shadow
Marathi,
Kane.
baby
little
Marathi. Yeah.
I think it's interesting, because that goes from 3 to 5 attacks. I believe 3s and 3s, -2 Ren now, D3 damage, no, 2 damage flat, or D3 damage, I can't recall. Anyway, yeah, it makes her a little, give her a little more output in combat, which I think is nice. But yeah, it's a cool rule.
Yep. Perfectly fine heroic action. No issues with it. Good stuff. Now we come to the best new rule that they have in this book. Period. End of story. I will accept. I will take no questions.
I heard you like catechism, Vince.
All out slafter. Because that's what I'm doing when I'm punching this button. You can use this command ability when a friendly Daughters of Khaine unit is picked to fight in the combat phase. The command must be issued by a friendly Daughters of Khaine unit and received by the unit that has been picked to fight. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made by that unit in this phase is 6, it's 2 hits instead of 1. So it's just catechism. It's just 6 as double tap. Yep. Now, why do I think this is like the greatest rule? Simple. Well, first of all, I like 6 as double tap. It actually smooths out your attack profile really well. The second reason I like this, because your initial read on it might be, but Vince, that's competing against all-out attack. And isn't +1 to hit better than 6s or double taps? Well, sometimes yes, sometimes no. It has to do with the base to hit number. But the reality is, this army might as well be called We're on 2s and 2s, the army.
Yep.
Okay? Like, if you ain't fighting on 2s and 2s, you ain't trying hard enough, okay? Like, you should be on 2s and 2s. And if you're on 2s and 2s already, absent penalties to hit, then you don't need all-out attack. But this gives you an alternative. This is here for the same reason that Discorporation, or whatever it's called, I think it's Discorporate, is in the Nighthawk book. Because they can't use all-out defense. Most of the time when your units are fighting, all-out attack has no value to you. So you get a replacement offensive command ability. So there you go.
Yeah, big fan myself.
Yes. Tyler, any thoughts on the all-out slafter?
Yeah, it's excellent. Yeah, you nailed it.
Fanatical Faith, still there. You got a 6 up. Congratulations.
Well, no, don't shrug it off like that. All right, we now live in the meta. Yeah, you made it so nothing. The reason I love Daughters of Khaine, there's so much rend out there. There's so much rend. Every club game, every little tournament I go to, rend everywhere. And I just go, you know what? That's great. I'm just gonna roll 6. That's all I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna roll 6s. That's all I gotta worry about. I don't care about anything else you got going on. So I just love having an army-wide 6 up. It's in the current meta. It feels good to always have a chance.
Definitely.
I'm with that. That's fine. I have no issue with it. I'm just saying it's not new. It's been there forever. They have always they're amongst their chief weapons are, surprise and an almost fanatical devotion to Khaine, obviously. So surprise, fury, and an almost fanatical devotion to Khaine list amongst the chief weapons employed by the Daughters of Khaine. And then the Blood Rights table, which is all cleaned up now to fit more with the modern stylings. 1 to roll in turn 1, 1 to charge, and 1 to run in turn 2, because these are all cumulative. I'm not going to read them like that every time. But it's the 12 days of Christmas theory, where you keep getting more Lords of Leaping even though you don't want them. And gooses and stuff. But instead here it's all good things. Turn 3, it's +1 to hit. Turn 4, it's +1 to wound. Turn 5, friendly Daughters of Khaine units have a ward of 5+. So, which is not a modification of Fanatical Faith. It doesn't reference that rule. It just supersedes it. There is a new thing that they gained that is a 5 up ward.
So and with
That
this,
is that will be relevant later.
where I mentioned earlier how some of this specifically felt like a nerf and then a buff was the first two, the one to run and one to charge felt like a nerf because I'm probably into turn one or if I want to or turn two. I like the rerolls better, but when we got to turn three on, I like it being a plus. So
Yes. And this is where we're going to talk for just a moment about a new playstyle that shows up in this book, which is the ramp strat. There is a lot of potential ramp in this book. I will say one of the reasons that I quite like the new book is I sat down and I got this book and I built an army. And it was the army I wanted to run. Like, it's not everything I've painted, but it's the stuff I wanted to run out of what I have painted. No Marathi, because I don't generally run Marathi. And I built out my list, and I put all the units in I wanted to put in, and guess what? It was 2,000 points on the nose. And I was like, shut it down, boys. We did it. We got it. It's done. This is my list. Yep. We're good forever. I could still mania this list. So
you're gonna tell us the actual list here, or are we just gonna leave us hanging?
We can talk about it at some point. It's not relevant. It's the one I like. There you go.
A couple of notes on this. So if I recall, we got a bit of an odd fact where if we auto run 6, we're not able to modify that 6 in any way. So we're not auto running 6 and adding 1 for quickening bloodlust.
That is technically true at the moment. Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
Yep.
Which is the best kind of true.
Yeah. And yeah.
A silly thing. Like, I don't know why that is that way. It shouldn't be, and they should undo that because it's completely non-intuitive. Like, units that get bonuses to run to run being the specific case where this happens. But you think of it as an innate quality of that unit, right? So it's like, I ran, I get this bonus, and then I set it to a 6, I get that bonus. Like, treat it like what it is. Whatever. Okay.
Headlong Fury, I think there are a couple of standout options to make teleport charges more reliable with this army. I mean, now an 8 with reroll is, 65-66% chance, somewhere around
pretty
there.
High, yeah.
You could cogs to make that a 7 with a reroll.
Stop it.
Got to get those cogs in there.
No. You don't need anything that's not in this book, Tyler. We can stop right there. You don't need those. You don't need those crutches. You can take them out.
Form,
I agree with Chuck here. Cogs is always the wrong answer.
God, the disrespect of cogs worldwide.
Because it's bad. That's just basically what it is.
A Gur Battle Mage with Wild Form is another nice ally choice with these rules. Yeah,
I accept your Gur Battle Mage.
Battle Mage +1 from the build 10. Yeah.
Okay. Ironically, Sean, yes, that was discussed. And no, I don't think it should be. I think it justifies its existence. Should it have been the battletome right now? That's a different discussion. Okay. Is it valid? Yes. Is it the battletome of the moment? Probably not. Here we go. So, command traits. All right. There is at least one command trait on this list that does, in my mind, stand out above all others and probably needs to be FAQ'd out of the gate. And that is
in a couple of ways.
Well, I don't think they're going to FAQ it the way you want there, Tyler, in that. I know your second point, but sure. So let's talk about these command traits. These are Daughters of Khaine heroes, obviously. And the one that stands out in my mind is Zealous Orator, which I have unabashedly taken in my list. This thing is bonkers good. If this general issues the rally command, you can return 1 slain model to the unit that receives the command for each 4+ instead of each 6. Hoo boy. Hello 50/50 rejuvenating units. That is very powerful. That is also not keyworded to Daughters of Khaine, I assume because this went to print at the same time as the Fire Slayers book did, basically. And they didn't think about it there, and they didn't catch it in time to make here, so I would very much expect an FAQ that says, no, this is only Daughters of Khaine units. You cannot bring back allied dragons or whatever on a 4-up. Or eels or sharks or something. I don't know. I don't know what you would pick.
Eels. You choose eels.
Sure. but it'll get changed to Daughters of Khaine. I personally think what Tyler you're pointing out is that mechanically it should be a 5-up instead of a 6 because a 4-up is such a wildly powerful, massive swing, especially as this is an army that can often just fight itself out of combat pretty easily. And so rally becomes a viable choice in multiple turns. Hit like for the dogs, by the way. The dogs are with me today.
There's a number of issues. So, guys, this rule is my least favorite part of this book. It's the most standout problematic part of this book. It should not have made it to print with a 4-up. This creates skew on a number of fronts. For example, this will often mean that you're going to need to prioritize killing whomever is your general that has this. Let's say it's a Melisai Iron Scale. You could potentially be hiding that piece behind a terrain, making it not visible to ranged output apart from the usual sentinels or whatnot. It's got, I think, if it's the general, it's wholly within 18. It can issue rally to eligible units. You can, let's say you've got 15 melee snakes in combat and some of them die. You can be thoughtful with your positioning to where you pull out of combat through the removal of models. There you go. You're now out of combat without even having to retreat or teleport out or whatever. Anyway, I'm not a fan. Yeah, it should have been a 5-up, and this would have been a really interesting command trait list.
I agree. It's unfortunate because, there are other command traits here that should be interesting, right? Fueled by Revenge should be interesting because it's a big aura bubble of +1 attack for Melusai. It's great, right? That's a cool command trait. Sacrificial Overseer is not a bad command trait, allowing you to fight twice if you kill something, right? But with the strike last effect, which, by the way, that's how fight twice in the combat phase should be just functioning now. Anybody who inherits this ability somehow, Khorne in the future or whatever, who I imagine should have this all over the place. It should just be if you get to fight a second time, the strike last effect applies to you. Another good one, right? So there are other valid choices here, but they just get so overwhelmed by Zealous Orator because of it. That's the problem.
I'm going to challenge a little bit here. I'm not going to challenge the fact that maybe it should be a 5-up because I think mathematically I understand it completely. Zealous Orator is the very obvious pick that everyone's going to go to.
Yep.
But you're going to have to be running enough damage in your unit, which you can put out. You can get to the 2s and 2s, -1, -2, depending on your sub-faction, and dish out the damage.
Yeah.
If you have a horde, you're likely going to kill whatever you do. So if you have 20 to 30, you're going to kill whatever you're touching. Most likely. If you don't, you're dead. If you're running MSU, who cares about Zealous Orator or bringing back 4 or 5? And if you're running a snake army, I want +1 attacks with Melusai units. I want that more than I want Zealous Orator because I'm running MSU with that army. Also, Master of Poisons is not the best pick, but it's the Kraith in me pick coming out. I love putting that on my High Gladiatrix. Because just to be able to take off those bigger units quicker, bigger heroes quicker with her ability, because it happens at the end of combat, which is the same time her ability. So in your phase, you do the D6 before you do her ability. You get to choose that
before
stack.
You do her D3. That's fun.
And
that's neat.
Low key, my favorite. I thought of this today actually because I was diving through the book trying to be like, okay, I know the obvious stuff's going to come out here. What's the hidden thing? I had Queen or Slaughter Queen. Probably Slaughter Queen is my pick on this. On Cauldron, with the Arcane Tome, getting Arcane Mastery. With Crown, it's just to have a priest wizard on a big base.
Yeah, with
all the access to those. Yeah, just to keep up and go anywhere she wants. I don't know if it'd be the best, but I think it could be pretty tasty. I think there's some play in that.
Here's the thing, Chuck. I actually agree with you. You can actually so here's the problem. If we just zot it out, if we turn Zealous Orator into Ipsum Lorem text,
sure.
Okay, I think you actually have probably 3 to 4 valid choices here easily that all feel on par with each other. That's actually my problem, right? Because Master of Poisons is actually pretty cool on one of those big heroes. A bonus the Slaughter Queen on Cauldron will in fact cause, if you make her the general, she will in fact cause damage. to things she fights. That you can be sure of. Getting a free D6 mortal kicker at the end of combat, like a sort of end of combat metal cruncher, is not bad at all. Okay. So like Fueled by Revenge, good. We talked about Sacrificial Overseer, good. Right. The problem is Zealous Orator, I apologize. Is just so good that it will override most people's choices, and that's a shame because I want to see people actually make more lists with more fun things. Like, if it was me, I would immediately FAQ this to say 5+, and FAQ this to say Daughters of Khaine units only. I expect the Daughters of Khaine units only thing. I don't expect the 5+ change. But they should. It would make for a healthier selection here amongst all these choices.
It's still attractive and very
and it would
solid.
it'd still be good. It's still in the conversation. It just doesn't feel so auto. Because like I hear what you're saying, Chuck, but like I'm unashamedly taking this on my general. Mm-hmm. And on my 10 packs of snakes,
I mean,
it's been
that's
amazing.
The thing. I mean, yeah, if you are reinforcing your core units, essentially, yes, you're gonna take that. I will not deny that. But you better be reinforcing. If you're going MSU and you take that, you're wasting your time. There's other better options. But it all comes down to how you're trying to play in the list.
Agreed. Totally fair. Okay. Let's talk artifacts. We have many artifacts here.
No, we just have one.
Well, we do. That is correct. I agree. There is one. You bow down to the queen and the crown, baby. The Crown of Woe is where we're going straight to. You just stop reading here, because this thing is real good. Enemy units cannot receive the rally or inspiring presence commands while they're within 9 inches of the bearer. And in addition, if the bearer kills anybody, then it goes to 15 inches for the rest of the battle. Love everything about this. It's great. One of my games, I fought a bunch of zombies. 260 packs of zombies. And, killed about half the unit. Okay. And then he was like, well, I'll just inspiring presence the unit to keep around. And I was like, no. No, you won't.
If you want to smooth brain this quickly, you put it on Melusai on her little cauldron, and you just arcane bolt something and move on with your day. Instantly.
Just boom goes the dynamite, and there went all the zombies. Exploded. They exploded.
Well, that was one. I mean, because it says wounds caused by the bearer's attacks. Would an arcane bolt qualify?
Actually, that's a good question.
Certainly, blood rack stare is.
The stare would.
The stare would, yeah.
The stare is an attack because it's a shooting attack. Yes, you got to stare.
Trigger my TO brain. I'm gonna look at that later.
Yes,
that's a good question. That's a very good question.
But either way, Crown of Woe is amazing. Whether 9 or at 15 inches, it's super solid. So, yeah, good. I mean, the other ones are like, they're there. I do find it funny, by the way, that you could use, so just as a quick sort of funny aside, the Crone Blade thing where you can pick one of your weapons, and if the unmodified hit roll made for an attack with that weapon is 6, you heal 1 wound allocated to the bearer. And then you've got Bathed in Blood. Each time an enemy model is slain by wounds caused by this general's attack, you can heal 1 wound allocated to this general. So if you gave a single character like a Slaughter Queen both of those things, it would actually be quite funny how much they could heal themselves just by attacking. So kind of a funny thing.
And I don't hate the Rune of Khaine in any other book in existence.
Sure.
It's just in here, it's like you're not going to compete with the Crown of Woe.
Right. Yeah, I mean, to me, this is the situation where there actually are other artifacts where we'll go into the other stuff. There are good other artifacts in the other sections, but this is just emblematic of what we often see in the artifact sections, where they write 1 or 2 good ones and the rest are just throwaway, and I don't know why that is. Neither of these are, like, fun. They're just bad. Like, hey, hi, hello, GW design and development team. How you doing? Quick talk. I'm not saying every artifact needs to be some powerful thing. That's not what I'm arguing, because that's how it would be easily sloughed off or heard. That's what I'm saying. That we only want spiky, powerful artifacts. Not what I'm saying. Okay? What I want is artifacts that do anything. And most of these do nothing. They do nothing for an extremely limited choice I have. Like, really think about the power of something like this operating all game, okay, versus one of my weapons if I fight. It's ridiculous. And by the way, if you want to make wackadoo, crazy, like artifacts that are like roll a 6, somebody explodes and is slain, I'm all for that. Make wacky, cool artifacts, because there's a whole cadre of people out there who like that too. That's the kind of stuff I want to see. Yeah, like those things are cool. Yeah. I want more like Nurgle's nails and brass orbs and crazy stuff like that. That kind of stuff is silly and fun. So make ridiculous once a game something completely wild happens. Great. That's in the list. Just don't make nothing. It's all I'm asking.
Especially, and this is not just this book. This is kind of every book. You have all these subfactions that have items in it from the previous book. More of them, I think, should port over. Like I do miss. I played Kraith. I missed the Venom and the Gendra, where I just got to pop a D6 mortal wounds as an artifact. It was once per game. It was terrible, but I'd be happy to see that here as just an option, just for fun. Mm-hmm. And then the other ones that I can't remember off the top of my head from the previous book would be fun. Just one or two, not all of them. Like, you don't need to just port them over, but like I like the newer ones too. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, like you have pre-made ones you could probably port over much easier and twist and adjust to the new edition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. So Xenogothic, I understand that take. He said once per game artifacts suck, even if the effect is significant, it really takes away from customizing the loadout of your hero. Xeno, that's a very, like, you have a certain psychographic profile that you just communicated to me right there. Okay? And that you just said Johnny Spike, like maybe 75-25, you're off of that particular thing. You're talking about loadouts for your heroes and customization and stuff like that. But there's a psychographic profile of people who look at stuff like the Brass Orb or Nurgle's Nail in its old version. I know it's not what it is now in the new book, but I can't remember what the new version of it's called. Keyhole of Nurgle or something. And they're like, this is what I want. I want to roll it's worth my artifact slot for this chance for a crazy effect that will be just because the time it happens. I want to experience the time it happens. So those people should have artifacts written for them too, right? But like, and that's fine. That's a valid player type of the game. No one looks at this thing and says, yeah, that's great. That's the problem. Okay. There's no profile this is serving. Nobody's supporting that. Okay. Or like once per game, roll a die on a 4-up. Nope, stop, shut up.
Kraken like tooth for everybody.
Almost unless it's just incredible.
Every army needs a Kraken tooth.
Like Haywo just summed it up perfectly. What is up, Haywo, in the chat? We just shouted out his 31 minutes awesome AOS video. Destroyer in the Auric War Clans book. Once a game, +3 damage for all your attacks. Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah. You use that bad boy once, you're like, oh, it's coming. And it just feels so good. Feels so right. +3 damage. I don't know what I said, but whatever. So, there are valid once per game artifacts. Like, you can do that. The boat one in IDK, like, make a boat. It's a perfectly fine artifact. Right? Okay, anyways. Continuing on the artifact journey here. Crystal Heart. When the bearer attempts to cast a spell that summons an endless spell, the range of that spell is doubled. Nope. I mean,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean this is one of the Johnny ones. So if you want to run through some hoops and try to do some cool off the path things with this book, you've got some options with Crystal Heart. So you could combine Crown of Woe with Suffocating Gravetide. We're going into a horde meta, turning off Rallying Inspiring Presence, right? You're taking 6-inch range to now 12-inch range. It's an 8-inch move with the Predatory, Suffocating Gravetide. Each enemy unit that you're crossing over, rolling on a model, roll a die per model. So if it's 2 units of 30, rolling 60 dice, each 6 is a mortal wound. Not bad, just in terms of a chip damage strategy. So yeah, I think there's some endless spells where you can try to lean into some off-the-path things. Shards of Alagar was another one that came to mind. 18-inch setup range, double that to 36. And then I think the 2 pieces You can reorient them within like wholly within 12 of each other. Anyway, point being that it gives you a lot of range with that to control it. And Shards of Elegar takes movement down to half and it turns off fly. So yeah, I think there can be some bags of tricks you can try to come up with this kind of piece, but yeah.
Yep.
Few
So
thoughts,
let
yeah.
me answer a question real quick. Michael Fu said, "Hey Vince or Tyler, what is Timmy or Johnny or Spike?" Yes, as answered in the comments, yes, they are psychographic profiles originally created for Magic the Gathering, which we end up using as a framework a lot. Johnny wants to experience something amazing, generally likes big monsters, big effects, big experiences. Timmy wants that. Timmy wants to experience big things. Johnny wants to, sort of express his intelligence, and so likes list building and combos and using unusual off the beaten path choices, and the list game and the tech game and playing very wombo combo stuff.
What I just did, what my ego
Mhm.
just wanted me to do right there to express
Correct.
some
It's
intelligence.
literally what Tyler just did.
Yeah, just all
And
ego.
Spike
Yeah.
wants to win. Like that's the shortest way of saying it. That's somewhat inarticulate and incorrect. Like Spike wants to sort of like Spike sees it as a competition, and so would like to sort of experience victory, however that's defined in some way, which doesn't always have to be winning the game, but can be. Okay, so and Joseph, what you're referencing there is Vorthos, and Vorthos and Melvin are appreciation profiles, not psychographic profiles. They don't describe the why, they describe the what. Okay, so I mean Shadowstone, right? It's Shadowstone. That's what we're taking here. It's Shadowstone.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
I-
plus
I
one to
can-
cast because it's the only basic source of +1 to cast in the army now.
You're right now that because Marathi lost it, Marathi
Yep.
Kane, and yeah, with Mind Razor staying at 8, which is where it needed to be. Like, yeah, that's the one I go for. I could see arguments for Sevenfold Shadow if you're playing the teleporty style old Dark Elf, but like still, if you're doing that, you kind of want Mind Razor in your list, so you probably will lean back to Shadowstone regardless. And as we said, if you get 2 artifacts with the way you're building your list, one of them's going to be Crown of Woe no matter what.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I do like Sevenfold Shadow, as you said, Chuck, as part of combo damage plays.
Mhm.
You're in Celebron, right? And you use the Celebron command ability to teleport 10, 15 bow snakes, and you use the Sevenfold Shadow to put your Medusa or Bloodwreck Shrine in a spot to light up a big unit. So if it's 30 models, you're gonna do what, like maybe get like 7 of them, and then 6 or 7 of them from that, and then 10, 15 bow snakes. You do some damage from that. You're burning that, and then maybe you have like 5 Heartrenders that come in, they shoot as well, and then they move to steal an objective. Like suddenly you're able to. I think those kind of combo damage plays, you can do some interesting things. Yeah, with Sevenfold Shadow.
As
But
as this book draws out over the years here, and hopefully it's years and not
We're done now.
yeah, hopefully. I think it's gonna be interesting to see if people eventually move away from Crown of Woe because they find the power in a book elsewhere with the units. That Crown of Woe isn't necessarily as needed as we thought. It's. I mean, right now it's like, yeah, take it. That's what you want to take. But I'm curious to see how that's going to expand over the years as the list develops, since there's more than one army in this book now. So
Yeah.
that's a thought experiment that we'll visit in 2-3 years time, maybe.
Sure. I appreciate what
That
you're
was,
saying, Tyler, about Sevenfold, by the way, and the teleport ability. I mean, built-in auto teleports are good. My issue is there's a lot of other teleport capability in this book, right? I don't necessarily need this.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. Like, it's not as though this is a book lacking in teleportation options.
Right.
So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would expect Shadowstone and what's it called, Master Magic, the universal command
yeah, where you
trait
can
for
reroll one
reroll.
cast per turn. Yeah.
Yeah, I would expect that to be a pretty common option, just to make Mind Razor a little more reliable. 7-up with a reroll. Yeah.
I will also say that the Khainite pendant and the priest thing is interesting. Now, oftentimes you are chanting on 2-ups in this book. That is a pretty real thing that's happening. But that being said, some of your prayers you don't want to miss with, and hey, 1 in 6 is still a chance of failure. So if you're really, really risk averse, the Khainite pendant can make it so the turn you need the prayer to land, the prayer sticks. It just does.
Right.
I mean, we lost the Iron Circlet of the rerolls.
Right.
Granted, that was much harder because we weren't on 2s, but yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, an invocation. Do they need to spell out prayer or invocation, or is invocation within the prayer category? Thinking Heart of Fury, for example, to make that an auto, get that out automatically. I can't recall. I know an invocation takes a prayer, Do
I think they
but-
yes, I think they would. I don't know. It's a good question
Mhm.
because it
Yeah.
is a prayer that summons the invocation, right?
Right, right. So, yeah, if anybody in the chat knows offhand how they classify that. I know that if you do an invocation, it takes a prayer slot.
Right.
But yeah, is it? Yeah, anyway, what I just said. So, I think if so, that could be interesting as a way to, when you really need Heart of Fury to pop out.
Yeah, because Heart of
There
Fury
you
is
go.
actually interesting in this book quite a bit. So yes.
Yes.
That'll be like one of the last things we talk about. But go ahead and mark that down in your mind right now that that Heart of Fury is one of the few sort of that type of thing that I actually find interesting, which is good. That means that the two books we reviewed in the last 2 weeks will have 1 out of 3 of their sort of quote unquote endless spell offerings. I understand it's actually a prayer, but
Yeah.
those
Stop
things
it.
being valid. Okay. Boom boom. Spell lores. Pretty similar-ish, honestly. There are some minor changes to things here, but they're the spells. Mind Razor is still Mind Razor. It still does what Mind Razor does, so that's good. And I still like a lot of the other spells in here. I still like Steed of Shadows because I like moving 16 inches with a fly speed on certain heroes, especially because of the speed of this army where your troops can pull out ahead of your heroes pretty easily. I still like Mirror Dance quite a lot. I mean, that's my sort of Johnny-ish pick because Mirror Dance is one of those things that doesn't immediately have power. You have to put yourself in the position to have power. You've got to have the right heroes moving at the right time to swip swap.
Yeah, there's some subtlety with Mirror Dance. That, yeah, we could get into
Just
a
with all
little
the
bit,
buffs
but-
you get from the High Gladiatrix.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, just surprise here. By the way, here's all my buffs now that you didn't think I had.
Right. Being able to swip swap heroes around is generally pretty good. It can just you have to really watch your range and sort of what you are, right, and who's doing it and who's wholly within 18 and stuff like that. But I do one of the things I enjoy about it is having some dumb little hero, and then you can sort of, if you can like swip swap up your Blood Rack Shrine, and just all of a sudden now you're in like prime stair location for when the shooting phase rolls up or whatever. So there are things depending on what's going on there.
One piece about Mirror Dance, they did not specify you cannot move. There's no language like this counts
Correct.
as your move for that movement phase. So, yeah, you could swap in the Shadow Queen and move whatever she's at on her profile, 14 or yeah. I mean, that could be quite meaningful.
Yep, absolutely. And then there's plenty of good stuff in there. Like the Withering is also good. You don't often need it. Like +1 to wound, you almost only need it often to buy yourself out of penalties because it's so easy to ramp to being on 2s to wound. But it's still an okay spell. It's just its casting value of 7 is problematic to me. Hard to hit without Shadowstone.
Does impact shooting, of course. So that is one distinction from the
Sure.
rights table. Yeah.
Yes, we
A
should
way
say
to
the
get
Blood
your-
Right Sable is only melee. Yes.
Yeah.
None of those +1s to hit or wound or any of that impacts ranged attacks.
And if you are looking at, it is nice because if you're looking at allies, you put this on the enemy, so you essentially get to buff anything that is in your army with this, who maybe isn't getting those abilities. So
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Seed of Shadows with Little Marathi is still great as a pinning piece. A lot of people over the years have done that with Little Marathi, and yeah, now that she knows the entire lore, so you can pull that trick out of your bag when you need it in a particular game. Yeah, I think that's really nice. Solid all around.
It's a good spell lore. I mean, like I don't. Pit of Shades is generally garbage for the same reason that Crack's Call is generally garbage. Even though I would point out that Pit of Shades has the same casting value but 5 inches longer of range and affects flying units. But it's still a garbage spell. Even though it is patently better than the other spell we talked about as being a garbage spell earlier, it's still a garbage spell. Because again, things just move too fast in this game on average. That's the issue. And it's too swingy of a secondary mechanic. All
I
right.
think the point out about Mirror Dance, just in case anybody cannot read the fine print there at the bottom, move from the battlefield and more than 3 inches from all enemy units. So it doesn't have
Yep.
the 9 inch, the normal 9 inch. So yeah, you could really be on top of somebody potentially.
Yeah, hence the setup kind of out of nowhere for the perfect stare, right?
Yep.
And if the summer moves as we clearly think it's going to into hashtag horde meta, all I'm saying is stonks on the Bloodrack Shrine, because cleaning the clock of a third of a horde unit with your stare ain't too shabby.
Or even just you have the Shadow Queen here, and you'll confuse your opponent. You swap that with the Bloodwreck Shrine. You stare and you stand there in the way. They have to charge you. Then you unleash hell.
Yeah,
They're
absolutely.
gone.
Yep. Melt. Okay. Sorry. Prayer scriptures. Unfortunately, my biggest thing I'm sad about in this particular prayer scripture, in our prayers, is that we once again had a chance to fix a third rail rule that shouldn't exist in the game, and yet once again we decided to go ahead and keep it. I don't know why. I've been saying, when Battletome 1 came out, I said it was wrong and shouldn't be here. When Battletome 2 came out, I said, it's a shame they didn't fix it. Let's hope for the next one. Battletome 3, here we are, still haven't fixed it. And that is Blessing of Khaine, a prayer that has an answer value of 3 and a range of 14 inches. If answered, pick one friendly Daughters of Khaine unit wholly within range and visible to the chanter until your next hero phase. You can reroll Fanatical Faith rolls, your ward save. You should never, ever, 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 ever be re-rolling ward saves in this game. That should be a third rail kills you instantly if you write that rule in. You get one chance to change it, otherwise you must be forced to leave the building and never write another book. It is that bad to me. Now, as a quick note, these are rerolls of the Fanatical Faith rolls. Remember earlier when I mentioned that the Blood Rights table in round 5 just gives you a ward save of 5 up. It does not say your Fanatical Faith roll is now 5 up. It just gives you a new, separate, different ward save. If you happen to be in round 5 or have ramped to it, Blessing of Khaine does not let you reroll the 5 up. It only lets you reroll the 6 up.
And
okay.
Now keep in mind too, just because if you want to take advantage of this, you can't roll 5 up and then a 6 up. You're going to be 6 up, 6 up. Just getting that TO word out there right now. That's how that's going to work.
Correct. But you still got your good prayers. You still got Catechism, which is great.
Martyrs.
I've always been
Martyrs.
a fan of. What's that?
I love Martyrs personally.
Yeah, absolutely. Martyr Sacrifice. I've always been a fan of Crimson Rejuvenation. Honestly, I like heals. I think heals are unexpected, and I just like the ability to heal back up units. Especially in a world where we now have heroic recovery too. It's just it's nice to be able to just tap a few wounds back onto a hero. And then of course my new hot pick, my absolute first prayer every time, Sacrament of Blood. Answer value of 3 and a range of 14 inches. If this prayer is answered, pick one friendly Daughters of Khaine unit wholly within range and visible to the chanter until your next hero phase. Add 1 to the number of the current battle round when determining the abilities gained by that unit from the Blood Rights battle trait. This ability and other similar abilities are cumulative. Oh yes. I'm all in on ramp, by the way, in case I haven't made that clear. In round 1, I want my snake units on round 5. And that is very doable. That is super doable. You can have 1 snake unit on 5 and 1 snake unit on 4s quite easily. On turn 4, quite easily. So basically, everybody's all buffed. You're where you want to be. So, yeah, Sacrament of Blood is my new hot pick. So, yeah, there you go. A lot of good prayers.
Yeah.
Covenant of the Ironheart is that a new one? I don't remember that one being there.
Nope, it's the same. It's just it's never been taken because our Witch Brew gave us Battle Shock immunity.
Oh,
so.
that makes sense, right? Yeah.
Which it's still it's like you think. I mean, and to be fair, when I played this, I didn't have a lack of command points, nor did I care to save the remainder of the girls maybe in a unit that I had. So I still like that it's there, but it's not one I ever really look at myself.
Yeah. All gas, no brakes, baby. Like I'm not here to worry about my casualties. That's irrelevant. I'm here to cause casualties. You're the one who needs to worry about battle shock, not me. If you get into me and lift one of my, you get to lift one of my units. That's your reward. But if I get into you, that's how this goes.
See, that's why I like Martyr Sacrifice, because I'll take Sisters of Slaughter or Witch Elves with bucklers. So, okay, I get to do a bunch of mortal wounds back as I go on my way out, and then do mortal wounds on the way out again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so like, I'm dead, but so are you.
Right.
I'm okay with that trade.
Just a bunch more chip damage into the unit on the way out. Yeah, just weaken them, which matters a lot because your units are expensive in this book. I mean, it is true that you're still a fairly elite-ish army, although you can be a little more hoardy now, but still.
Okay. I want everybody to note that Vince just said Daughters of Khaine units are expensive. Did we get that on record? I just want to note it. Okay. Move on.
No, it's fine. I mean, we'll come to the points. If you look at a lot of the units' wound to cost ratio, that's what I'm referencing, right?
Gotcha.
I mean, you're not. This isn't the people who are gonna put a ton of wounds on the table. Like that's often the case. Okay, or I should say most builds won't. All right, sub factions.
Spark.
Okay. These are basically 6 bangers. Like this is the Tom Petty's Wildflowers of subfaction sections. Every single song is good from top to bottom. It is Weezer's Blue Album. It is. I mean, you can pick. I mean, there's a lot of stuff like this. Yeah. Okay.
It's Taylor Swift's Reputation album to me.
I would have went for 1989, but sure, that's
Sure. Yeah.
It's definitely Taylor Swift's 1989 album. Yeah. I also would have accepted Bad Religion, Stranger Than Fiction, which was also similar, just top to bottom bangers. But anyways, okay. Hagnar. Add 1 to the number of the current battle round when determining the abilities gained by friendly Hagnar units from the Blood Rights battle trait. This and other similar abilities are cumulative.
That last sentence is Vince's favorite.
Which one is Vince going to play every time? I have officially supplicated myself to Hagnar. Let's do this.
I'm curious. Have you tried with maxed cauldrons yet?
No, I have
Max
not.
Behemoths, I guess. Okay.
I used 2. So
okay.
the extra rule doesn't matter.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you've taken advantage of that yet. It can be fun, but I know it's probably not quite in your play style.
Yeah, I mean I got too many other things I want. But yes, the bonus here written in blue is 1 cauldron that you take does not count towards your behemoth limit. So you could technically have 5 cauldrons. Okay. I don't know why you would ever do that, but sure, why not?
Because I own 5 cauldrons, Vince. Therefore, I must do it on occasion.
Sure, that's fine.
It's the only reason.
Yes. All right. Drakey Ganeth. Improve the Ren characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Drakey Ganeth Witch Elves units and friendly Sisters of Slaughter units by 1 if those units made a charge move. And you get 1 reinforced or double reinforced Witch Elf or Sisters of Slaughter without costing reinforcement points. So what that means, we're just going to jump ahead here real quick. What that means is that on the charge, if Mind Razor has landed and there's a High Gladiatrix around, is that your Drakey Ganeth Sisters or Witch Elves can come screaming in with neg 3 rend. Which is
on 2s and
horrifying. Hitting on 2s and 2s.
2s and 2s. Most, yeah.
Yep.
The first time you say that to your opponent, they're gonna go, "What?" And then you have to explain it.
Okay, so every one of these models on a 25 mil base is gonna make 3 attacks each. You're fighting 2 ranks basically because the reach. And so I'm gonna go ahead. Let's say I can get 20 of these in. So I'm gonna go ahead and make 60 attacks on 2s and 2s. I'm gonna pop my all-out Slafter. So 6s are double taps. Neg 3 rend. If Mind Razor's up, 2 damage. Well, goodbye. Like, that's any unit in the game deleted.
Yeah.
Delete. But it's super fragile, right? Because that's relying on you getting the charge for a bunch of this, on the High Gladiatrix not getting killed, on Mind Razor actually going off, right? Like, there's a lot of weaknesses to that plan. Okay? But I love that you can do it, that it can be a good melee army. Like, part of my argument here is the way I want to run Daughters is as a good melee army. And it very much puts the glass in glass cannon. Like, at the same time, if those girls get hit back, man, they're dead.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they're just dead. So, Donnie Rongo said, thank Nagash I play Night Hunt. Yeah, indeed. Overpaying for all that rend. So yeah, but I love that this is an option, as you mentioned, that you could have big hordes of witch elves back on the table through this, and that they can be really scary on the charge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always been a secret fan of Drachy Ganeth, and now it's much bigger. It will probably pull me more games than not away from just running Kraith over and over again, just for the reinforcements alone, let alone the damage you can do.
Right.
Right. So yeah, good stuff there. Keltnar, your entire army has retreat and charge. Just like, it's probably the most underwhelming one in this list to me. And yet, it's an incredible ability.
Yeah. It was good in the last book. It's great in this book too.
Right. Like, yep. Okay.
I played it a little bit in the last book, and the standout, of course, is being able to get the Shadow Queen out of a sticky situation, get her. And beyond that, I mean, yeah, it had some play. It wasn't quite adding up in the way that you might think it would, with how good that is on paper, for whatever reason. You know, it definitely with the Shadow Queen, it was amazing. Yeah, that having that flexibility, that threat, outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, it's because retreat and charge is obviously still quite a limited ability, right? Like, it's good, don't get me wrong, but it is still... we've now reviewed 2 armies in 2 weeks that can do this to everything in their army. Mm-hmm. And it's like, part of the problem is you kill so much, it's like, what are you retreating from?
Yeah.
So...
Like, yeah, Mind Razor you, charge in, kill that. Now come out of those 3 that are left somehow because they decided to waste their CP, and Mind Razor again, go to that unit. Just keep going.
Yeah, that's sort of your play there.
Yeah.
Okay. Calibron. You get Battle Line Shadow Stonkers out of Calibron, which is really cool.
Cool.
And Calibron it gives you a teleport at the end of the movement phase. I mean, that's the easiest way I can talk about it.
Yeah.
So you can teleport a unit, which is cool. Again, very good ability. That's kind of one of the things I was talking about that makes me underwhelmed on the previous teleport artifact. I mean, that would lock you into Calibron if you wanted this ability, but this isn't the end of the teleportation. Like we said, we've also got things like Mirror Dance to swap around. You know, you've also got Shadow Stonkers themselves that can pull teleportation tricks. So it's around.
Yeah, I mean, this is where if you want to do that old classic Warhammer fantasy battle version of Strike and Fade, that's where you sit. You can do it well.
I wouldn't worry the Harrower. Like, I have full faith and confidence. Let me tell you what. I'm not worried at all about the Khorne book, okay? Now, the reason I say that is because Khorne should be really easy. Because we've talked about 100 times in the show how it should play. And what they've proven to me in writing the 3.0 books is that when an army has a strong core theme, see Nurgle, Night Haunt, this book, right? Fire Slayers even. I'm absolutely going to throw them in. They're really good now at building rules to support that theming and to make you feel like you're playing that army. I cannot wait to see what the new Khorne book is. I think it's going to be just fantastic. So it's a shame we're not reviewing it right now. I would have loved that, but here we are. Hopefully soon. Fingers crossed.
On Calibron, I saw a cool list that Martin Wolf shared on Twitter. Shadow Khaine, where he had I think a reinforced unit of Shadow Stonkers, and then 2 other units filling out his battle line, 4 avatars of Khaine, and some number of heroes. And it's like, oh, I can actually see that being decent. I mean, there's an argument that maybe the Shadow Stonkers are a little overpriced, but we can get into that later. Anyway, yeah, avatars of Khaine are fantastic in Calibron in terms of just harassment pieces, distraction pieces. They're spreading your opponent out. They're amazing. Yeah, they're really great independent operators now. So yeah, Calibron, really, really cool. Obviously, it lost the -1 to hit against shooting. It's unfortunate, but whatever.
but yeah, whatever. The Kraith, I mean, Chuck, you've got to be happy about this one. As a longtime Kraith stan, after a friendly Kraith Sisters of Slafter unit has fought for the first time in the combat phase, roll a die on a 4+. That unit can fight for a second time in that phase. The strike last effect applies to this. So, amazing.
I just have two things to say. As the person who was the lead playtester on this book and the biggest fan of Kraith in the world, one, you're welcome. Two, this is the hard as we can get it. All right, it's not going anywhere. This isn't turning into a 3-up in the next book. But enjoy it. Like I love it. I am so excited for it. And I said I'm glad that too. It's a strike last effect, so it's not like it's immediate. Like the first book was amazing.
Yeah.
But on a 4+, you can rely on it if you can keep your models alive to do that extra punch and just get through whatever's left.
Yep. No, it's exactly the way these fight twice things should be structured.
Yeah.
Like it makes it, because then the enemy still gets to go. Like if the enemy's still there, they get to fight, which, like as much as we joke about the damage, there will often be situations where the enemy's still there and punching. And again, your girls are fragile. So it's cool.
Yeah.
It's just the right way to implement these effects.
Yep. And I'm ecstatic. That's why I now have 70 Sisters of Slaughter, even though I have 350 Witch Elves, because well, this is my faction no matter what you have, so I got to buy what you want from me.
Sure. And then finally, Xanthar Kai, where Blood Sisters and Blood Stalkers become battle line, so bow snakes and melee snakes. And then each time a model in a friendly Xanthar Kai Melusai unit is slain, that model can fight before it's removed from play, so they get Death Frenzy. Cool.
Yeah.
Like, again, super great. Blood Sisters are really, really scary. So
terrifying now.
Yeah, and like them getting an extra fight on death is real good. It's super duper good.
Now I'm almost positive this would not trigger Crystal Touch or whatever it's called, the 2+ doing Immortal, because
it would if they haven't already Crystal Touched that turn.
Well, we can
when we get to it, I'll show you. Yeah, this has the Crystal Touch now has very specific wording around it, so it depends on the sort of order of operations. But we'll get there when we talk snakes.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Yes, 3+ last year strike. You get to fight first next turn.
Next year.
In the next game, you get to fight first.
Maybe.
Okay. Cool. Right on. Let's keep going.
There's a problem with your notes, Vince. My book goes to Path to Glory. Yours goes to Match Play.
Yeah, it's no. I didn't went ahead and I didn't have that section.
No, did they send that to 2+ stuff? The C got that.
They must have just immediately removed that section.
You can just send it to Doug for you.
Yes. Okay. So, grand strats and battle tactics. I hate them. I don't care. I don't care about this part of the book. Chuck, you want to talk about these at all? Anything in here you like?
I'm always battle tactics. I'm kind of with you on. That's a little too much extra to deal with, but I'm always a big fan of grand strategies. It's you can take these if you want. I still think, well, I don't hate these. I still think I want to just take, what is it, Zealous or whatever, the keep a priest alive or keep a wizard alive, like especially a priest. I can get a hag queen out of jail and run away and hide in terrain and keep that pretty easily. That's still something I lean towards more. So these two are like, I'm trying to think if there was one. Was it not?
I mean, Conquered in the Name of Khaine is doable depending on your army list, where you have either a cauldron or an avatar in enemy territory. Depends a lot on the map, but it's like basically you need one of those two things to survive and be on that side of the table. Again, in a book with multiple different teleport options, it's the kind of thing you could easily achieve if you wanted to, right? When it comes to grand strats, because you could almost all but guarantee it if you were really inclined.
But with the price of those 2 units, though, you kind of want them to be doing something, not just hiding in the back to then teleport over to get that, or hope they survive to get your grand strategy.
Sure.
So that's why I lean more towards keep a priest alive, because I can sacrifice 100 points to hide.
Sure. I mean, Bloodthirsty Zealots I will also give a shout out to, just because I fight with everything in this army. I don't. I'm like everything. Everything in this army fights. I charge in hag queens to fight all the time. I'm like, yeah, let's do this. Everybody's got a knife.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a knife. We're all fighting.
Yeah, that's definitely an easy one to get a hold of for sure.
Yeah,
That's a really good pick. Yeah, I could see a lot of people doing that one.
Now here's the one issue though. If you're not going first, if the enemy can snipe out one hero,
it still works because it says have fought during the battle or have been destroyed.
Oh, or have been destroyed. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, which is that's why I love it.
Okay,
because
then,
if they snipe out your
true,
good linchpin heroes, it's like okay, just making my life easier to complete this thing. So yeah, like Bloodthirsty Zealots, I think is actually the pick if you were wanting to pick a grand strat out of this book. Battle tactics, I don't care, and I refuse to cover them. Use them if you think they're appropriate. On the turn, you can score them. There should in no universe be 6 freaking battle tactics in a book. Good lord, there are 8 base.
Yeah, this is 40k stratagems. We've
no,
done
these
this
are
many
easier than
times.
stratagems. Stratagems are a nightmare. These are easier than stratagems, but they're still. I'm still with you. Battle tactics are not my favorite thing in this edition.
Yeah, just the idea of playing in a tournament where everyone's faction has 6, however many battle tactics.
No, we can make this so much easier. Here you go, Tyler.
That's a nightmare to me. I mean,
it completely
you're trying to deny battle tactics, so you're going to have to learn all of these battle tactics.
Nope.
Drives me insane.
Just take the average AOS player, okay? Now say at the start of every turn, you have to choose from one of 14 different things. Does that seem like in the abstract, that's it. I've told you nothing else that's happening. Just there will come an inflection point at the start of your turn where you will have 14 potentially valid options that you must appraise the battlefield, look forward into your turn and your plans, and then decide which one is the correct one to do. Well, does that seem like a reasonable mental load for the average Warhammer player? No.
Well, see, here's the thing that I'm going to do too with this. I'm going to slim it down for you real quick. You're not going to worry about Executioner's Cult because relying on a dice roll to get that is not something anyone's going to take. I don't care if you're Hagnar or Keltnar. You can't reliably okay, maybe if you're playing a Chaos unit, sure, but you're probably not going to take that because not everyone's going to run those armies. You're not going to do unexpected attack. Maybe if you're Calibron and you feel like you can actually make an 8-inch charge, sure, go ahead. But I'm not going to rely my points on an 8-inch charge. Tide of Blades, most of my stuff's dying, so really quickly, I'm going to look at Clash of Arms and Cruel Delight.
Yeah, that's fine.
Especially Cruel Delight. Cruel Delight, if you take the right Canary, you get that immediately. That's fine.
Yeah, sure.
I have a problem with that. Where
that's
automatic.
an autocomplete.
Yeah,
because they can drop and move automatically now, as we'll talk about. So
but really,
literally another autocomplete one.
Like I said, and then with the Clash of Arms, even it's well, what kind of army are you running?
Sure.
If you don't have
Chuck, the other concerning part about this that I find, if 2 or more of those units are Witch Elves or Sisters of Slaughter, score 1 additional victory point.
Yep.
We're creating a lack of parity within these book-specific.
We're already getting into hashtag Horde meta because Tyler, there's going to be other stuff in the GHB if it goes to Horde meta. There's going to be things that say if you score these battle tactics with a reinforced or double reinforced unit, score 1 extra victory point. That's how it's going to shape out.
Here's the thing too with Clash Arms here, where that additional victory point's going to come into play. If you're not running just the snake build, oops, all snakes, which helps us to slaughter, you get to run and charge. So getting 3 of those in isn't hard.
Yeah.
You have a much easier chance than you do, say, the unexpected attack of rolling, teleporting, and trying to get an 8-inch because you have +1.
Yeah. So
I hate the idea as a design standpoint of having additional points being eligible on built-in faction-specific battle tactics.
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we're gonna have that.
But
with HB 2022.
Also, right. Yeah. But this is just another lever to pull to try and get away from snakes a little bit with oops all snakes.
Yeah.
In a way,
as we were talking about it,
it's maybe not the best lever, but it's a lever.
Yeah.
That's fine. I would hope that the GHB ones will do that to some degree because obviously things like bow snakes are terrible at completing often battle tactics. If it's anything to do with moving, right? Like
Right.
you could have this same thing, right? And it wouldn't even need to say witch elves. It would just say charge move, and like bow snakes would still be bad at it, right? Because you don't have a bunch of bow snakes you want to charge. Like that's not what you're doing with those girls. So, anyways, enough of this talk of these things. The next battle pack should just say base battle tactics only. Or if you're a TO, go ahead and write that into your battle pack for your tournament. Only allow players to use the 8 base battle tactics so we're all on the same page. Every army has equity, and we can all actually somewhat keep these options straight in our freaking heads. Thank you, and good night. Okay. Core battalions. Yeah, they're fine.
Yeah. I wish they chose a different one besides Shadow Patrol, but that's about it. From the old ones, I don't care about Shadow Patrol at all. But I guess if you want to guarantee Cruel Delight, take Shadow Patrol.
Yeah, not too excited by them.
Yeah, I mean, the Viperic Guard's fine if you want a little option for, if you're not too concerned about drops and you want an option for Magnificent, it's fine. If you're going to have snakes. Like if you're going for that snaky snake thing. But you got to have Marathi, which I don't generally build. So these are both fine. They're fine. That's my answer.
Why would you take Magnificent when you just do Warlord? And there's
Sure.
there's not there's not a one drop there, so there's no reason that I can tell to take Magnificent over Warlord. Anyway, yeah, it's just kind of these are often so strange.
Yes.
These core battalions, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Doomfire Warlocks, huh? All right. Cool. Okay. Units. Let's get to the good part. Let's get to the stuff. All right. So, units. We're going to start, of course, with the big girl herself, Marathi Khaine, and her alternative self, Snake Lady. This is Shadow Queen. Okay, important stuff about Marathi. She's basically still Marathi. We're going to talk, if you're familiar with old Marathi, she's basically the same thing. She's a War Master. She knows 3 spells, or she can cast 3 spells. She can unbind 2 spells. She's not a triple unbinder.
She's a general.
Yep. She has the whole 1 soul, 2 bodies thing. Now, there is a weird exception to this right now. We'll cover it very briefly. She still has worship through bloodshed, which is the pick a unit and fight or shoot in the hero phase. So she still has that. Oops. And her big girl is still the same. 2 bodies, blah, blah, blah. She can fly. She still buffs Canary and Melusai, so on and so forth. Okie dokie. And she actually has neg 2 rend. There we go.
Yes. She's settled it. She's in a good, stable mindset after becoming a goddess. She knows what damage she does and how much rend she does.
She sharpened up the spear. Heart Render now has the correct amount of rend. We're good to go. Okay. Relevant things about Marathi. 1, she's 680 points, which does represent a slight bump from where she was previously.
Plus 20.
Correct. She lost her +1 to cast, which is not an insignificant thing.
Right.
Okay.
Good call, I think.
No, I agree. It is a good call. On the same side, everybody was walking around going, oh, Alariel is completely useless because she doesn't have a bonus to cast. She's a god. Why doesn't she have a bonus to cast? I didn't hear those same Alariel stands coming out in protest of Marathi losing her +1 to cast. They weren't showing up on the picket line saying, how do we undo this injustice?
Whereas
maybe it's because we shouldn't actually give out many bonuses to cast in this game. And we should just let people roll 2d6.
Every Daughters of Khaine player that saw she lost the +1 just went fair.
Pretty much.
She's still not 700. Okay, fair. That's fine.
It's nice.
Grand Alliance Death. Yes, they are 2 different units.
Yes.
Okay, they can move around independently and do whatever they want. They're two
Counts
separate
2 drops.
units.
Yep.
They just are purchased together as a little bundle. They're a bundle deal. Okay.
Worship through Bloodshed went from Holy Within 24 to now Holy Within 18. So that's another little subtle change. So the
Okay.
range.
Small change, but good. Yeah, basically she's on the normal rules now, effectively.
Yeah. So it's the -1 to hit rolls. The Marathi Khaine.
Yes.
By the way,
Marathi
that's
Khaine does.
which I think that is pretty useful. Yep.
All right. Let's quickly talk about the controversy. Oh, boy. Okay. Here we go. So, as written right now, technically, you can spike Marathi off the board in 1 round. Okay.
Rules as written.
Rules as written. Let's look at the Iron Heart of Khaine. Let's begin our journey here quickly. I'm not going to spend a long time on this. No more than 3 wounds and/or mortal wounds can be allocated to this unit in the same turn. Once 3 wounds and/or mortal wounds have been allocated to this unit in the same turn, not counting any wounds that were negated, any further wounds and mortal wounds that will be allocated to this unit are negated. Now, that last use of the word negated is really important. Okay? Because they switched that from the word ignored and went to the standard usage of negated.
Should be has no effect. I think it's the new words it should be now.
Correct. The problem with that is that first it raises the question about what happens if she gets hit by something that ignores wound negation, of which there are multiple things in the game. Now, it's possible we could appeal back up to the first sentence and say you can't even allocate to them. Okay. And say, okay, so that's not actually a problem because we can't actually get past the allocation step because the allocation step caps it at 3 because of the first sentence. Fine. So Sigvald can't just smack her around. Now, Marathi Khaine, let's go over here to 1 soul, 2 bodies. If the Shadow Queen is on the battlefield, wounds and mortal wounds that would be allocated to this unit are instead allocated to the Shadow Queen and have no effect on this unit. Wounds and mortal wounds allocated to the Shadow Queen in this way cannot be negated. Oopsie doodle. Okay. Now, once again, we could make an appeal to that first sentence, maybe. Okay. But nonetheless, it still raises the problem because they can't be negated. And
This
so...
negate gate.
Negate gate. This is going to be FAQ'd. That, look, you can think whatever you want about this. You can hate Marathi's Iron Heart of Khaine rule. Fine. It doesn't bother me any. I think it's a good rules design space. I understand that some people have problems. This is something Haywo rips on all the time. I think it's a perfectly fine rule to exist on a model like this. I think it is what separates her and makes her feel like a god, especially now that she has ascended into godhood. I wish every god... I want every god unit to have some interesting, unique ability that literally only appears on their scroll and is a unique challenge for them. And the fact that she actually dies more than many of the other god models, because I've never not killed Marathi in a game, because she's actually quite easy to kill, is... like, tells me, yeah, sure, she doesn't die in turn 1, 2. She generally dies either the bottom of 2 or top of 3. Yes, that is the majority of the game, sometimes. But, you know, I've never had a problem going up against her. You just know what she is, know that limitation, and constrain your resources accordingly. I think it's an interesting play challenge that exists on this one model. So, cool. If you don't like it, that's also fine. Like what you like.
Let's say we do 3 damage from ranged attacks to Little Marathi. Does she get her 6-up ward before allocating anything to the Shadow Queen?
No, it works how it used to, where it just automatically passes.
Right.
Okay,
So
and
you
then
don't-
on the pass, the Shadow Queen would not get the ward?
Correct. I think
Correct,
Marathi
because
Khaine will
they
still get the
cannot
armor
be
save.
negated.
Marathi
Yeah.
Khaine will get the armor save, but she won't get a
Correct.
reward save. It passes, and then you don't get it. That's how it works in the gold book too. So
That is
Okay, cool.
correct,
That's
because
what
the
I- that's what
allocation
I
is
thought.
happening before the ward save. Yes.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
You have to allocate to a unit to roll the ward save. If we don't, because we never hit that step, we can't. And then by the time when we get to Shadow Queen, we would then say, we would then trigger the cannot be negated text, which is what they were trying to stop. Like, I get why they were doing this, right? The problem is then they didn't, like, nobody read these two scrolls back to back, and, like, somebody clocked this basically day one and was like, oops, all berries. You can just sort of theoretically plow a bunch of wounds into Morathi Khaine, into baby Morathi, and just lift big Morathi in a turn. It doesn't matter. It's going to be FAQ'd. I would bet my bottom dollar on it. So, like, their intention here in writing 62 paragraphs of text on this rule was not to have the, like, weird giga brain, oh, but if I do this, but then this is my reading of the rules. Like, it's obviously an unintentional rules interaction.
Yeah.
All right.
It's just, oops, we used negated more times than we should have. That's it.
Yeah.
Expect the FAQ.
And yes, that is correct, Joseph. Wounds directed at the Shadow Queen do get the ward. Yes. But I mean, it's not going to matter in most cases because you're going to run up against the cap at 3 long before she ward saves herself out of anything. Okay.
Side note on Morathi, I was having a conversation with a friend about how this army doesn't have many unique characters anymore. And in some ways, that fits the lore of Morathi, that's the case. I hope they have some plans to. There was a little bit in the narrative of the battletome about, some like something like crones or something. I can't remember what they were called. Chuck, you might know.
Oh yeah, the
Like-
Chrome Blades, like the ones who don't
Chrome
agree
Blade,
with
yeah.
Morathi, and that's
Ye-
and also like some of the highest hag queens, like the ones that lead the temples, are called blood queens. And I read the lore
Yeah.
today because I read to catch up on all of it.
Mhm.
They drop a lot of named just characters throughout the book, like
They did,
slaughter
yeah.
queens, hag queens, like gladiatrixes.
Yeah.
I hope to say, because that's the one thing I would always felt lackluster. It just in Age of Sigmar was the lack of lieutenant level characters. No,
Yeah,
at
it's
the
like
same
her,
time,
and you've got Mogwaith, and that's it.
yeah, and it's like, I mean, sure, that has allowed people like me, like I made Teyrathi, other people have made their own characters, and that it allows it to have more of a presence, I think, in the
Mhm.
overall scheme, and people like are aware of it. But like, yeah, I would like more lieutenant level characters
Sure.
for sure.
So our summary on the changes to Morathi. Let's talk about Morathi and the bow snakes here. Let's transition to that. Lost her +1 to cast. Went slightly up in points. Her command ability shortened slightly in range. And she went to the standard, as pointed out. Yes, Hera was correct. She did go to the standard new monster table, which is 4 brackets instead of 5. Right. So just like every other monster they've printed in 3rd edition, it now has the new, more generous wounds table.
I do 7 wounds to her for the first bracket.
Correct. Yep. And so, all in all, here's my answer. Morathi and the bow snakes. So I'm just going to launch into this. Let's just do this right now. Here we go. Morathi and the bow snakes was already a bad list. It just was. Like, it wasn't a winning list. It was was it a pretty feel bad list sometimes? Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't disagree with that. And my ultimate problem is I still think we should have made a change. Like, we should have moved the snakes to trigger on the wound roll or something. So I'm coming down on the side of there should have been some change that there wasn't. However, competitively, it was a bad list. Casually, it's an annoying list, which is sort of the worst place to be in because it can cause NPE, but not. However, there are a lot of other incentives not to play this in the current book because of Witch Elves and Sisters getting way more interesting in a lot of ways, and because melee snakes becoming way, way, way more interesting, which are both make for much more flexible, resistant, varied competitive armies. The
Battle scroll update where you just give out a ton of victory points
Yeah,
if you
I mean-
lose if you get tabled.
sure,
at that
it's
point,
which is
yeah.
gone now, obviously, but
Right, true.
She Morathi's off the list, everything, but in my estimation, they were going here like in their minds, and I'm not a mind reader, I'm just guessing. But in their minds, they said, okay, let's try this with some soft incentives. Slight bump in points, get rid of her cast bonus so she's not as good as the centerpiece to power out Mind Razor, and you need some other tools, and make the other stuff better so people are more incentivized to play the other lists. That's my take on it. I still would have rather seen the snakes go to wound. Okay, Tyler, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I can get there with you on the idea that it was a bad list. We've had some discussion about it. I have a sense of what you're saying. I mean, we had plenty of good players who knew how to operate a pattern that has always been good in this game, and knew how to extend the life of Marathi a little bit, and to keep the 15 snake bows operating at least through 3 rounds with a double tap, and teleport screens or screens in general. I mean, Dayton just went 5-0. He's not really been running Party of All Points. He's not really been running Wrathing the Bow Snakes. He just went 5-0 the other weekend with it. So, I mean, by just the numbers, it's a good list. But it's been within bounds. It's not a list that's been tearing up the field. A lot of people are familiar with how to play it nowadays. Yeah, I think it's generally fine. I mean, to do a old Warhammer Weekly Nugget, it's fine. I agree. There's other soft incentives, which is nice. A lot of people know how to play against Marathi now. Would be amazing. I mean, this might be an opportunity. Vince, I was talking with you about this. Just if you love Marathi, you want to play Marathi, you do you. That's fantastic. You love bow snakes, cool. Rock on. We're all familiar with what Daughters of Khaine have been doing the last 18 months, right?
Yeah.
For the most part. I mean, if we looked at the data and the lists that have been taken to tournaments, it's Marathis and Marathis and Marathis and bow snakes. Like, that's what we've had for the last 18 months. Can we get let's mix it up. Let's see what people can do without Marathi, without the bow snakes. I mean, there are so many things with this book. I think a lot of other opportunities to go 4-1-5-0 with cool lists that don't involve that. I would love to see more of that in the community rather than just going to these old chess nuggets that we've seen for 18 months. All right, ran over.
I think, no, that's a good rant, solid rant. I think a lot of what the issue was here too is like, one, it was a good, powerful trick. It wasn't a good trick. Every time I played that list, I felt great for 2 turns, and then I lost everything, and I was like, okay. It wasn't great after that. But it was also in the mindset of financial lens. That's probably your cheapest way to build this list.
Mm-hmm.
It's also time commitment. You can paint snakeskin much better than you can paint, much quicker than you can paint a horde of witch elves. I think that has a lot to do with it. But now, like, sure, people are still going to take it because they don't want to. Oh, I don't want to paint 20 witch elves. It's like, okay, well, cry me a river. I don't care about that because you know what I've done. But the incentive has shifted. So will we still see this? Yes, but we're going to see it from the people who are too lazy or financially unable to shift out of it.
Which is fine.
You do you. If you enjoy it, you enjoy it.
To move up bow snakes a little in points. That could have also been another viable way to go here. There are also, I will say, if you want to, the other soft incentive we should discuss here is if you want to get the snakes as battle line, bow snakes, you either need to be in Xanthark High, a subfaction that isn't doing anything for your bow snakes, or you have a very soft general, because you have to have a Melusai general. She's the only general that can, the Melusai Iron Scale is the only general that can make your bow snakes actually battle line on her own. So, again, should there have been changes? Yeah, I still think yes, because Tyler, the reason I say it's not the competitive choice is because the existence of Be'lakor and IDK basically render the list unable to win tournaments. Like, yes, I'm not saying sometimes you won't dodge those matchups, but I'm saying that those 2 units put it out of consistency. Okay,
yeah.
those uses of those 2 things, right? However, if you're not playing one of those 2 armies, that doesn't mean it's a great time to fight against them, right? Like, that's why I say it can be competitively the wrong choice, but casually a bad game, right? Because that it has hard counters that just shut it down in the meta, which will stop it often from going to the top of a tournament.
I feel like we saw that in the data.
To play against it.
The data reflected that really well for a while. Yeah, in terms of you see a lot of 3-2 and 4-1 with Daughters of Khaine. And yeah, anyway, we not to get sidetracked by discussion on that, but that was
that's why I say you shouldn't rely on things like win rates and 5-0s and things like that just to determine what's properly balanced. Like, sometimes we can just intuit, hey, actually these things have a sort of, instead of a bell curve distribution, they end up with an inverse distribution, and that's not what you want, right? Where it's like hard stop over here, bullet train on this side. That's not great, right? So, okay. Don't worry, Joseph. If you like spear snakes, if you like melee snakes, it's a good day for you. We're gonna get to
Oh
them,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's a great day for melee snake players like myself. Okay, Bloodrack Shrine. I'm so in for this thing. I love this thing. I love this unit. I'm all about this unit. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's great. It's still largely like what it was before. 13 wounds, 5-up save. I will say most of this army is just a 5-up save. If you like the shields, where you have the options to take them.
Sure.
Otherwise, it's 5s and 6s. So I mean, it is a very fragile army. Fragile. They're all Italian. The Bloodrack Shrine still a single cast wizard, double unbinder, which I actually really like. I know that's so silly, but I quite like it. The Aura of Agony ability is still pretty dumb, but the her ability to do mortal wounds on the impact and her stare are still fantastic, and I love them. And she still got a great spell. And now she has a new ability that I absolutely love. Is Melusai Kin. Oh, buddy. So it should be stated, she is not a Melusai. She is a Medusae. She does not have the Melusai keyword in any way. Okay? But at the start of your combat phase, you can pick one friendly Melusai unit, wholly within 12 of this unit. Add 1 to the number of the current battle round when determining the abilities gained by that unit from the Blood Rights trait until the end of that phase. This ability and other similar abilities are cumulative. So, if you've been keeping track, it's turn 1, but we're in Hagnar, so it's turn 2. But I sacramented a blood them, so it's turn 3. But I'm Melusai kin to them, so it's turn 4. Good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I like that it's phase dependent, so
Yeah.
you're not stacking right, so that there is an opportunity for more clapback. And your opponent has a turn that comes around. Like, say you run into events with 15 melee snakes. Well, you may not be on your 5-up ward when my turn comes around, right? Because some of these things are going to kick off. I think when we get into Witch Brew, it might be limited to that turn. This is limited to that phase. So there's only, I think, Hagnar and Sacrament of Blood that are essentially always up. So Sacrament of Blood until your next hero phase, and Hagnar all the time. So anyhow, there's some subtleties that I think.
Yeah, yeah.
That's, some
Yeah,
nice
no, you're
nuance
absolutely
to
right.
it.
This one is your combat phase, right? So you got to pay attention to
Yep.
stuff like that. Yep.
Yep, and personally, I am a fan of Aura of Agony. I know it's early on, but it's just nice to get a little extra chip damage going through here in your hero phase. Bloodrock Stare is also good. I actually prefer. Yeah, I mean it's wonderful. I mean, but I also don't want to sacrifice this unit to use it on Unleash Hell like I do the one on foot. But we'll get into that when we get there. But no, I'm a big fan of this unit, and actually I only have one of these, and I want to get 2 now.
Oh, don't worry, Joseph. We don't have to use the general trait. We've got other options. Okay, right on. Yeah, this girl's 200 points. I love her for 200
Yeah.
points. Like I'm in like Flynn, all the time. And as we assumingly again, as I've said 100 times in this show, transition to hashtag Horde meta. I think the stonks on the Bloodrack Shrine are only going up and up and up.
Also hashtag Totem.
Hashtag Totem, yes, she can 18-inch command ability. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
It's good design. Again, it's another maybe a little soft incentive where you can leave Marathi at home and run a Bloodrock Shrine to have some synergy with your melee snakes in particular, which is great. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. The Melusai Iron Scale. So this is the hero. I should have added this here, but I forgot to put the text in. But the Melusai Iron Scale is the hero that also makes the snakes battle line.
Mm-hmm.
If she is your general. Let me make sure I'm absolutely correct on that. I'm like 99% on that, but I didn't write it down, which I hate. Yes, general is Melusai. Okay.
Melusai. Yep.
Thank you. Just wanted to make absolutely sure of myself. The important part about her is that she lost her sort of all the time 5-up ward and instead now has a 5-up spell ignore.
Right.
So she still has her whole like if any enemy models are slain, +1 to the attack's characteristic of Melusai, which is a super cool ability that almost never triggers. It's very hard to trigger.
Yeah.
I had this accidentally trigger in one of my games because somebody like piled into me and basically had her in combat when I also had snakes in combat. And so I was like, all right, well, they're going to charge me and fight first. And they didn't kill her. So then I went up and fought and killed something, and I was like, hey, all right, way to go. I did it. And it happened. But it's very rare. You never bet on that.
Feels like, I mean, maybe would it be too powerful to give this the thing that they've been doing with a lot of little heroes, right? Maybe it started with Nurgle. You fight with the Lord of Blights, and then you get to pick another unit to fight. So
Yeah, to pull her in. Yeah, it would have
Yeah,
been.
so-
I honestly think it would have been the better ability here if she
You're
pulled the
still-
snakes in.
Because you're still exposing her. So she's probably your general. So you're still exposing her in combat, and then she still has to kill something to then get the benefit for the immediate next activation with your melee snakes. Yeah, I feel like that's a decent balance. But this is not going to matter as always for the most part.
Yeah, if you charge her in, they could easily attack and kill her pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And your best bet is to charge her in on the side of something, but chances are your melee snakes have already taken up all the space anyway, and you want them to get every single blade in they can.
Yep. And she has the turn to crystal ability because all the Melusai have the turn to crystal ability, so that's why she does this weird 2-up 1 mortal wound thing. It's just because the Medusa have it. It'd be weird if she was a Melusai who didn't have it. So that's all that is. The Bloodwreck Medusa on foot, I also don't hate. At 130, she's a bit expensive for the 6 wounds for 130 points. She's ratioed pretty hard. But I do like having one on foot and one on the cauldron, just because that's how you asked about my list. That's part of my list, Tyler. One on foot and one on cauldron. And the reason for that is pretty simple. I want to be able to Melusai kin two different snake units. Right?
Yeah.
That's at a cheaper price. So
Yeah.
she's also another cheap stare, things like that. So you can kind of hide her behind stuff, and if things charges in, you can unleash from her, things like that.
Shell.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a great trick. Vince, I know I used it on you in a game we played once, but if I have one of these, I always keep it around the Shadow Queen. So people want to charge the Shadow Queen, they're going to have to suffer an unleash hell before they get in with this. It's just a nice thing to do. And then, if it's a horde and you roll fairly well, you take out most of it, and now they realize they're in combat with the Shadow Queen.
Yeah, sure.
Like
Absolutely.
it's a neat little trick. It's getting kind of to the point where the points aren't worth it, but if you have one, keep her nearby and have some fun with it if it's a horde army you're facing.
Yep. I also
on
quite
the-
like having the 2 Medusa just because I like having 2 different sources of enfeebling foe, which I do think is just a really good spell because -1 to wound is a really good debuff. And you don't have a lot of defenses in this army, so actually -1 to wound is it's a good defensive ability.
Cast Valley 5. So yeah, we skipped over the Melisai Iron Scales Wrath of the Scathborn. That command ability got changed. It used to be 2d6. Now it's just
Oh yeah, it's just
going to be d6.
shoot,
You could
Yeah, just run and charge, yeah.
run charge.
charge. So yeah, you could. So essentially, it's a more defined threat range for your melee snakes, especially. Yeah,
I have
where
heard a
now-
ton of speculation, by the way, on the fact it says this unit can attempt to charge even if it ran or shot in the same turn. And like, why would or shot be in there? Because nothing about shooting prevents you from charging. Is this future proofing? Does this mean we're going to see some big change? My answer is no. I think somebody just wrote that and nobody caught it. Is honestly my answer. So
It's technically not wrong. Still, so
yes, it is correct text. But yeah, run and charge is you're absolutely right. It is actually a super valid thing on her.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a defined 14-inch plus a charge roll threat range, whereas previously it was even scarier because if someone pops high on the 2d6, you kind of have to take that into account in the threat range. So I do like that it's been stabilized a little bit more, especially with how scary melee snakes are now. So, but yeah, still quite good.
Yep. Okay. All right. Margwaith. She's 185 points. And yep, she's a hag queen.
with the bodyguard.
I mean, I don't want to talk about her abilities because I want to talk about it on the hag queen. She's a hag queen with a bodyguard. So here's the question I'm just going to ask you guys. Is she worth it?
Oh, she's way too much,
Chuck?
I think.
No, because I also don't usually run Hagnar, and she's locked to that.
Yeah. I do run Hagnar, and I don't care. But It's yeah. I mean, my answer is no, just because I don't like. I don't. The package isn't terrible for what you're getting because you're getting like weird 2-wound witch elves basically. But I still just don't think it's actually worth it. But there you go.
Yeah, not like it used to be when it originally came out, and it was
Ridiculous. Yes, way too cheap.
However,
I'm not
it
sure
is
what
up
you're
on-
referencing there. I hope we didn't tell anybody that. That certainly wasn't our intention. All right.
Also, this is up on I think last chance to buy. So
Oh yeah, because all
if
the
you want it for conversions, because I have this already, but I bought a second just to make sure I have a
Sure.
conversion fodder for the future.
they
So-
are beautiful models. Like my God, is this a gorgeous set? Like they are top.
You could buy this and so you can get a high gladiatrix out of that. Sisters of Slaughter easily. Obviously, Mogwraith can just be a standard hag queen, and then yeah.
Yep. Okay. Hag Queen on Cauldron of Blood. 270 points again, much like it was. There is some small changes here. So, for example, with the ladies on top, the ladies. Hello, ladies. Their attacks have been combined into one profile. So, basically, you've got the Blade of Khaine, and then we're going to see the same thing on the Slaughter Queen, as opposed to like this sword or knife or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's just one profile. You still got the Avatar sword. This brings us to our first chance to say, yay, the Avatar doesn't need to be woken up anymore. He's just awake now. Yay. It's a good change. The Hag Queen is always this sort of less damaging version, although not by a huge amount, than the Slaughter Queen. Relevant about this unit and the Slaughter Queen on Cauldron. Let's just talk about the relevant things here on both of these. They are both totems because they've got a giant totem on the back, namely the big Avatar guy. You add 1 to chanting rolls for friendly Daughters of Khaine priests wholly within 9 inches of any friendly units with this ability. So basically, that's going to be true for the Hag Queen on Cauldron, the Slaughter Queen on Cauldron, and the regular Avatar guy on foot. All broadcast this aura of +1 to chant. That's why I say often you will be on 2s for the chance you need to land. So that's a super good buff. You still have Blood Shield. It's still +1 to save for reasons I can't fathom, but here we are.
You want me to read the lore texts for you? I mean, why?
I understand. I understand the reasons in the lore. Okay, it just shouldn't be thematically. And the important part about her is she has a silly prayer that is bad.
Well, it's better because you used to have to hide dice.
Yeah, it's true. You did used to have to play the hide dice.
It's improved. It's improved. We
Still
use it
bad,
now, but it's improved.
Yeah. It went from a 1 to like a 3, but it's still a bad prayer. It doesn't matter though. You're like, she has her witch brew, and this is our first chance to talk about witch brew.
Yep.
At the start of your hero phase, you can pick 1 friendly Daughters of Khaine unit wholly within 12 of this unit to drink the witch brew. So she can throw that witch brew quite a distance out there. She can really get some heft on it. A unit cannot drink witch brew more than once in the same phase. If you do so, add 1 to the number of the current battle round when determining the abilities gained by that unit from the Blood Rights battle trait until the end of that turn. So again, speaking to what you were talking about, Tyler, in that turn, and then on the enemy turn, it's going to go away, right? Or at the end of the combat phase, the Melusai ability is going to go away, right?
Yeah.
However, if you're keeping track, turn 1, Hagnar. Turn 2, Sacrament of Blood. Turn 3, Melusai. Turn 4, Witch Brew. Turn 5, baby.
5.
Going in hot with that 5-up ward and all them bennies. So at any rate, that's the Hag Queen on Cauldron. Chuck, what do you think of the Hag Queen on Cauldron?
Oh, I love her. The Hag Queen Cauldron's always been my favorite of the 2 cauldrons for the Slaughter Hag Queen, just because the fact that it also does the Witch Brew. Like I said, I like the touch. I kind of, it's gonna sound silly. I like the touch of death. I like the old version better because no one ever knew what the heck you were doing when you started hiding dice behind your back. It still didn't do anything. It wasn't worthwhile. But I'm going to give the prayers I want to get off to my priestesses on cauldrons, and they're all getting a +1 all the time. So I'm getting much easier buffs off. To change the Witch Brew, as much as I love just ignoring Battle Shock, after you play this army a few times and you realize just how glass cannon you are, you don't care that much. I mean, and there's CP, so you can always save it if you need to, and that's not a problem. But I like that Witch Brew's back to being automatic, and I like what it does a lot better. And I know you're doing like the Hagnar, but like, okay, we'll take Drake Ganeth. Like, you can still be on turn 4
Yeah, sure.
very quickly, and like and with the style of army I run, I'm very fragile anyway, so I'm not really worried about that 5-up. I expect to die if I don't kill what I touch. So
Sure.
turn 4 is enough for me. Turn 1, if I'm honest with you. But yeah, Hag Queen on Cauldron's Blood. I try to fit 2 in my lists as much as possible because I like to having 2 anvils. So
My drink just exploded all over me. Good times. Tyler, talk about this while I get a paper towel.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Chuck, when I was running Daughters of Khaine, what stood out with this piece, I mean, just kind of conveyed it. The first couple of battle rounds, it's a buff piece, utility piece, amble piece. You're keeping it back, and then it can really start to shine in those rounds 3, 4, and 5, right? The opponent's army has been whittled down a little bit. It can function as a hammer, especially as you layer buffs on it. By that point in the game, you will have been layering buffs on it, all else equal. And yeah, it can put out a good amount of damage. So I love this piece. Yeah.
Not to mention, I put Arcane Tome on her, put on Arcane Mastery. All of a sudden, I got prayers, I got spells. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you imagine this thing going 16 inches with fly? It's kind of scary.
No, totally. Yeah, I love the idea of Seed of Shadows on this, or the Slaughter Queen on Cauldron. Yeah, that's pretty sexy, pretty exciting.
The Harrower only for endless spells. Yeah, the Hag Queen honestly has always been my less favorite, just because I'm all gas, no brakes, and she doesn't hit hard enough for me. That's the problem. But I like the changes here. I think they're good. It's a good unit, no doubt about it. I'm not coming down the Hag Queen. Again, a solid choice. I mean, the internal, I don't know if we've said it yet, but the internal balance on this book feels really strong to me. There's a lot of different units that, I mean, most units we're going by were like, yeah, sure, that's worth a look, right? All these times. Yep. It's probably Slanesh, Xenias. It's probably Slanesh, because all Slanesh models are annoying to put together. Okay. Hag Queen on foot, it's 110 points, and she has Witch Brew and her Touch Death. You're buying a model for Witch Brew. That's what she's here for.
Right. Which in the old days of running a bunch of hordes and there was no reinforcements, I grabbed a lot of these. Now I don't usually. I'd rather put them on Cauldron, but I'll bring a Slaughter Queen on foot. But yeah, I'm so glad they're still priced reasonably. I used to be my choice to put Venom and the Gendra on because I'm witch brewing, and then I would pop D6 mortal wounds with my Kraith artifact, but those days are gone, sadly. So.
Yeah, I mean, Hag Queen's fine. She's squishy. That's the thing, right? You're taking her to get Witch Brew, and she's a rather squishy target. So.
And she's not there to activate the Avatar as the babysit mechanic either now. So yeah.
Autumn, I think you're legitimately allowed to play that music anytime you want. You don't have to worry about bringing 50 Spirit Hosts, but you can if you want. All right. Slaughter Queen on Cauldron of Blood. I mean, look at this lady. Look at her.
Hellebrand.
She's here to do the business. Okay? She's not here for this nonsense. I like this girl a lot. 315 points is a bit expensive, but still worth it in my mind. Again, totem, like we said before. She has her Death Sword and Blade of Cain put together for her attacks. And then her girls have their little Seanza, just like the other one, and the Avatar Sword. What I like about her, I'll explain why I think this model is worth 45 points more than the Hag Queen, even though she doesn't have the Witch Brew. So first of all, this is my Crown of Woe wearer. Let me just say that in my list. She still has the chanting bonus. She still has the impact. She still has the blood shield. She can unbind a spell, which is cool. I like tons of unbinds. I think it's fun. She has Orgy of Slaughter, the command ability, which is a good command ability. It's melee only, but it allows you to fight in the hero phase.
It can get you out of trouble pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So lets me take another bite at the apple in case I didn't happen to kill something, which is cool. It's your hero phase, but still. But the reason I like this girl is because of Dance of Doom.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Her prayer is so improved, so good, it's wild. So then it's literally the whole reason I love this girl. If she didn't have Dance of Doom, I wasn't in on this war scroll as I was reading it for the points until I got to the last ability. I was like, nope, I'm back on board. Okay.
Yeah, a number of positive consequences, and yeah, how you can write a list and play the army with her.
Yep. So Dance of Doom is a prayer that has an answer value of 3. Of course, that's actually a 2 because she's within 9 inches of herself. And if answered, the strike first effect applies to this unit in the following combat phase. And there's a notable, interesting result of that. If you're on the Schnei, if you're on the turn, you can then charge her in along with your snakes. One of the downsides to Daughters was always like fighting with multiple units because the hit back, because all of your units are made of paper, basically, right? But because she goes in your turn, does some decent damage. She's a damaging model. You can buff her up with most of the stuff we've talked about, not all, but most. And so she fights because she has ASF. And then it moves to the normal time to choose, and you get to still, like, you're still first choice because it's your turn. So now I'll pick my snakes. So it effectively gives you a double activation for your first sort of on your turn, basically, right? Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Again, only in your turn because it relies on the prayer, and it's only that following combat phase that it applies. So very much just like Nighthaunt we described last week, it is a glass cannony army. It's going to hit hard on its turn, but it fears the hit back because a lot of its abilities go away.
Right, but if you have Sisters of Slaughter guaranteeing that 6-inch pile-in, you have her making the charge in CP if you need it on her. She's going to fight first. They're going to fight. And then if you somehow get a Hag Gladiatrix nearby too, you don't care. Like you're not going to be hit back. Whatever you're touching is dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah, you guys just laid out the potential to hit the trio with this, a hammer, and Sisters of Slaughter. That's pretty exciting. Yeah, just in terms of you can set that up and the damage you could do with that in terms of then not having clapback coming your way. That could be pretty amazing. Yeah. I don't know. It seems strange that sword did not count for at least one extra attack. They standardized its 4 attacks. Death Sword and Blade of Khaine.
Yeah.
Equal, like that seems odd. That should be worth at least an attack. So, but yeah, no, great war scroll.
I agree. The Slaughter Queen is quite sensibly dressed by the standards of the Daughters of Khaine.
She's dressed for warm weather or cold weather.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so yeah, I like the Slaughter Queen a lot. She's a pick for me, but I get it if people would pick the Hag Queen instead. Like I get it.
Sure.
Slaughter Queen on foot is the same thing, but with a much worse frame because she doesn't have the avatar behind her and stuff like that. She just has the command ability to dance. This is my first like hardcore skip unit. The Slaughter Queen on foot, I just at 130 points.
If there's an item to make her a nice assassin piece, maybe, but also we have the High Gladiatrix, who's a better hero assassin piece than what she could ever be now. So, yeah, I think I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I'm passing on the Slaughter Queen on foot. So sadly,
I mean, yeah, she's gonna be list dependent in my mind. Like, you're leaning into Witch Elves and Sisters of Slaughter, let's say, and you've got a couple wagons. You may not have the points to make one of those a Slaughter Queen on Cauldron, so you might just add her in to give that potential for Orgy of Slaughter with your bricks of witches or sisters. So just from a point standpoint, I could see her potentially making some lists. But yeah, I'm journeying with you guys.
Yeah, I mean she's few wounds and fragile for a good amount of points with not very good abilities. So that's the challenge. Now the High Gladiatrix. Okay, this is where I come to a problem. I'm not gonna I don't want to celebrate something that shouldn't be like this. This girl should not be in any universe 90 points. Get out of here with these points.
This is just a throwback to the original Hag Queen.
Yeah.
Foot. That's all this is. It's a throwback. I mean, those are popular now.
like the High Gladiatrix is a great scroll at 6 wounds. She's got 1 more wound than like the Slaughter Queen or the Hag Queen. Still on a 5-up save. Her attacks are fine. They're fine. Like the +2 attacks command ability, because she has 2 weapon profiles, will easily apply to both, as you had stated. Her Dance of Death is cool because she has the Sisters of Slaughter jump into combat thing if she wants to. She can kind of do it more safely or whatever. She has Killing Stroke, which, okay, like it's not very likely you kill somebody, but if you get a hero down to a couple wounds, sure. That's happened to us. It's happened in games where you get a hero down to a couple wounds because of a fight and they're not quite dead. Then she can be like, haha, and got him.
Yep.
Right.
Pairing it with Crystal Touch potentially with the Blood Sisters, the melee snakes.
Sure.
Yeah.
But none of that's why you're taking her. You're taking her for Paragon of Slaughter, one of the most incredible buff abilities in the entire army. Melee weapons used by Witch Elves and Sisters of Slaughter units wholly within 12 of any friendly units with this ability have a 2 wound characteristic of 3+ instead of 4+, and a rend characteristic of -1 instead of / whatever. I do not like that she's this good at this price point. That is wrong. I mean, obviously she's a pick. She's too cheap. She's just too cheap.
I have 2 in every list.
Sure.
She is too cheap. Yeah, I won't screw that.
110 in the Arena of Shades. Wasn't that the point value?
No, I don't remember.
I know she wasn't
110. I think it was 110. Yeah,
10?
maybe 115.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I would expect her points to go up first in anything else in this book.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, she should easily be Hag Queen price. And honestly, I think she's better. Like,
because she has her ability, Paragon of Slaughter, is as useful as the original version of Witch Brew. And like I said, this is just automatic. If this Paragon of Slaughter maybe was 3-up or 4-up, okay, yeah, that'd make her cheaper because it's not guaranteed. But guaranteed, that is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, like, is she good? Yes, too good at this point value. Is she too good at 130 points, where she should probably be? Like, honestly, the points values on this page should swap. Okay? That's my answer. Like, the Slaughter Queen's probably worth 90 if you're ever going to take her. I'm not even sure at 90 I'd ever take her, but at least it's a more reasonable place for her to be. The High Gladiatrix, that buff, let's not kid ourselves. It's an incredibly stupidly good buff. It breaks one of the core rules of AOS 3.0 because it lets you get more than actual +1 to wound.
It's 2 different buffs, because I mean the rend is it's a weird cherry that's bigger than the ice cream cone, on top of the fact that it's not just giving you a +1, it's actually changing your to roll. It's changing what your 2 wound is, which also 2 wound bonuses don't exist easily in this game.
Right. And she has a super version of it. So yeah, I mean, like, my answer is swap the points on these two scrolls. That's the correct move. So whenever we move points on Doc, let's see that happen. Now they won't, because they have it in their head that if they move points too far, we'll all be upset because of sunk cost fallacy. And I mean, they're right. There'll be some people who groan and whine. I don't care. It's the correct points value. I don't care if people are going to be slightly upset for a minute. Set things at the correct points value. And the correct points value for this is 130 points. Yeah, I'd accept 120 or 125. But in my head, it's 130.
Yeah. I think, 120. Yeah.
I mean, it's such a good buff.
Yeah, I think I'm a 120 fan. If I think back to my decisions early on.
Sure. But either way, we're all saying more than this. And by the way, none of us are saying a small amount more.
Sure.
Right? That's a 33% increase on her points.
And it's still a very cheap foot hero. Like, by the end of it, like, it's still a reasonable price to pay. I'm still gonna figure out how to get maybe
I'd
2
slap my
list.
mama in the face for this in Slanesh. Are you kidding me? Absolutely. Okay. So, at any rate, and by the way, she'd still be good. She'd still be picked. I'm not saying it wouldn't make her bad. She'd still be totally picked. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Boop boop. Tom, are you agreeing with us or what somebody else said? Tom's watching. Hey, Tom. I hope you're doing well, brother.
Hey,
Sisters of Slaughter. So obviously they're basically like they were before with a few very minor changes. Importantly, if you give them the buckler now, it's just a straight 5-up save characteristic.
Yep, not a +1.
Not a +1, which is cool.
Yep.
So I like that. Easier change. You don't have to remember it. It's just, that's the number. I have no issue with them going from a 6-up to a 5-up with the sacrifice of the attack. Perfectly fine. I am okay with it. Because it is a meaningful choice to have that extra attack versus to have the extra +1 to save. Fine. They can still run and charge. They can still 6-inch pile in because of Dance of Death. And they still have bladed bucklers if you take the shield, where they can kick back the mortals. 135 for 10. Now, before we talk about these at all, let's go to Witch Elves, because it's obviously a sort of mirror unit, right? Witch Elves, being, if they go for the paired weapons, then they're 3 attack base. If they go for the shield option, where they, again, move to a 5-up save, then they're 2 attack base. So very similar choice, right? In both cases, we're sacrificing 1 attack for the shield. So good stuff. Easy balance. Still run and charge. Fine. Still have the bladed buckler. The new rule for them, the new wording is add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by this unit while it's wholly within 12 inches of any friendly Daughters of Khaine totems. Boom! The totem buff. Tyler, I was ahead of my time. I saw it all coming back in 2016.
Tom and I are never going to hear the end of it.
Look,
He's
I
so
knew
lovely.
totems
I love
were a
it.
big deal. Bring back that scheme. That's all I'm saying.
Get a shirt. I'm excited about totems.
I'm excited about totems. Yeah, absolutely, I am.
Hashtag
115
meta.
points for 10. Okay, so obviously very similar profiles, ramp capabilities, synergy capabilities, so on and so forth. Right. The big difference being that sisters, if taken in Kraith, have this other ability. If either can buff in Drakey. And sisters always have that built-in, very powerful 6-inch cheater pile-in rule.
Yep.
Okay. So I do feel the cost differential between the two units is justified.
It's that's a really interesting debate, because if we look at the previous book, with the way the books were structured and the way the buffs worked and everything, I thought they should be the same points, which is why, I fought hard, I guess, internally, and they come out initially with that, and they eventually started separating as buffs and things changes, addition changes, but I saw them as 2 different options, really blendy or more utility with that pile in. But now with this Frenzied Fervor added on top, and the fact that if it changed it to a 3, but it's like the +1, like that's better. I'm starting to agree more and more, especially, but that I'm wondering if that's partially because we're in the shooting meta of things. That 6-inch pile-in is amazing because you screw your Unleash Hell, I'm just going to come into you and fight you. But I wonder, because like I see the separation as points better now, but as maybe we move away from the shooting meta, maybe they come back closer together in my mind.
Yeah, I cannot understate the power of 6-inch pile-in.
Yeah.
It's so
totally.
wild
That's
how
where
good
I'm
that
at.
ability is.
Yeah.
Where we're at right now, yes, I can't disagree with that. Yeah.
To be clear, it means they have on scroll run and charge. I mean, I know they already do, but technically they already they get it twice.
Yeah.
They have retreat and charge, right? And they have ignore unleash hell. That's written on their scroll because of that one rule. Right. So
I've seen a lot of folks talking about just leaning into Witch Elves and that these are overcosted. Sister of Slaughter. I mean, a lot might be an overstatement, but a number of people commenting I've heard, and yeah, I don't see it. I would definitely go with. Could easily do 2x20 as part of a Witch Elf / SOS heavy list with a couple of wagons, and yeah, just like we talked about earlier, guys, with that ability to better control your minimization of the clapback, minimization of damage that's coming back to you. That's so critical with the glass, the lack of durability being increased, as well as the output. So yeah, it seems to me like they still have a very clear role with this army.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the way I look at it, since I play Kraith, I max out in Sisters of Slaughter, 2 units of 30, a unit of 10, or however you want to source it out. But really, what that comes down to is okay, because it's an extra 20 points per 10, I'm not getting an extra hero, so I'm probably taking the hearth prayer invocation. So it's it still works out to be okay. It's not ruining any lists being at the points they're at right now.
Yeah.
Right.
The other thing I'll say is don't forget the sisters do also have a 2-inch reach with their core weapon. If you're taking the sisters
Sure.
with bucklers, right? Which means that you can be in a lot different sort of formations and still have them all fight. Whereas the witch elves you've got to affect to get them all fighting, you have to be in 2 pretty tight ranks, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, like I said, to me, it is a valid choice between these two. I think it's really just your list and strategy dependent as to what's the right unit for you. Yeah. So, there you go. Okay, good. So yeah, both battle line, both good choices.
Yep.
Well done. And both have a cool, slightly different play to them. Khainite Shadow Stonkers, standing apart by being a 4-up save in this army, which is weird. So good on you. Not a lot of that going around.
Well, no more -1 to shoot. They just have a better save.
Yes, yeah, they lost their -1 to be hit. They are battle line in Calibron, as mentioned earlier. They're 150 points for 9 of these folks. But it's not 9 wounds. It's more because you get the Shroud Queen lady in here who has a wounds characteristic of 3. So you're technically getting 11 wounds in the unit for that 150 points. And they still have their teleport.
She's got mini Heartrender, the leader of this. She's just mini Heartrender. Not as much Ren.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just it's surprising the damage that can go out if you roll decent.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, these guys are good. You take them. Okay. My argument on Shadow Stonkers is you use them as a backfield deck chair sitting unit that threatens late game teleport on objectives and just general harassment. So.
Yeah, and they lost their 6-up mortals on shooting, what you weren't doing anyway because you were too close by the time you were at that point. So that's fine. You're right. Put them in the backfield. Deploy them in a way so people can't deep strike upon you, and then once their threats are down, then go in their back line and harass them, and then move away and strike and fade.
Yeah, I think they are probably slightly overcosted right now, given the loss of the different abilities. But they're still a very threatening unit. To me, they fill a similar role as Tree Revenants in the Sylvaneth army, honestly. Little more punchy in general. But one of the things that really makes me love Tree Revs is they're cheap, right? I can have the deck chair sitter teleport threat guys on the cheap. I'm paying a little more of a premium here.
Right.
Sort of. I mean, Tree Revs are 80. They have 5 wounds. This unit has the equivalent of, I believe, 11 wounds, 8 models, and then 11 wounds. So, I mean, that's roughly that's roughly 160 points by Tree Rev Center. But yeah, I get what you're saying though. A lot of folks, and I certainly did this, would use them as a teleport screen. So again, with Calibron, that's really nice. Yeah, they're your power pair. With or babysitter, what do you want to call it? With your 10 or 15 bow snakes, wherever they go, you teleport your shadow stalkers to be your screen, and they do seem a little too high. Not a lot, but a little. I think they went up 30 points, 120 to 150. The 4+ is interesting. It's the gap between a 3+ base and a 4+ base is enormous in this game. Played some,
but it's still good.
Eternal.
I mean, Tom just said they're one of the best anvils in the army, and I don't disagree with that. They are. It does make them a lot tougher, especially if they're within a Cauldron's ridiculous shield ability.
Shield, right? Yeah,
Part of me wishes they had not necessarily a cast, but I wish they had a dispel on them, since they are shadow magic. Just because backfield, all of a sudden I have things to dispel you with. Just something a little extra, not necessarily something breaking, but to make it worth the points they're currently at.
Yeah, I would be really curious to explore or hear from folks who, again, try to lean into a unit like this, maybe a combination of some of these units you don't see as much, and look at some edge shooting play styles, some off the path play styles. For example, the potential of multiple, and we'll get into them, the heart renders who can auto move when after they shoot. They come in, they
Yeah,
deep strike
yeah.
in, they auto move 6 inches right. You have 2x5 come in. There's 10 bodies that your opponent can't do. You could, traditionally you zone out the teleport deep strikers, teleporters coming in to deny them being able to get within 6 of an objective, right? You zone that out. Well, you've got tricks with this army that you can mitigate their ability to do that. And you can have 2x5 come in, that's 10 models that will guarantee get on that objective. That's 10 bodies right there. Yeah, I think there could be some interesting play with these. Start
My,
to lean into them.
I mean, my question is, if you're playing Calibron, is it
Yeah.
150 points worth getting 3 points at the end because hold the line? You just keep hiding one unit that will
Yeah,
never
sure.
be
You just
touched.
run them.
It's like, is that worth it? Is that a potential play in
Yeah.
Calibron?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. It
Yeah,
feels like
so-
there's some opportunities here with this unit, but maybe a little overpriced, not by much.
No, not by much. I
No,
mean,
no,
I'm
no.
literally saying like maybe 140. I think I would feel better.
Yeah.
But, like it's we're talking small here. This isn't a high gladiatrix situation.
Right.
And honestly, I don't hate him at 150. It's not like they're bad. I mean, most armies would be super happy about an auto teleporting unit with a decent enough profile.
Yeah, I'm still gonna
And,
look at them. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, cool. Doomfires, the unit that would be, good, solid in any other book and will continue to be not taken in Daughters, no matter what Tom tells you or has tried to make happen over the years. It's never going to happen, so just let it go. But yeah, I mean, they're fast. They have 2 wounds. They have a 5-up save. They're still a wizard. They still have their Doomfire spell. And importantly, they are actually another source of +1 to cast.
Yep.
Because they have add 1 to casting and unbinding rolls. And in fact, I think they're the only source of +1 to unbind in the army. Because Shadowstone's only on the cast.
That's true. Yep.
And the only source to +1 to cast non-lore spells.
Correct. Yes.
True.
Yep. So if you're trying to power out like generic endless spells or something like that. So they do have an angle here. Even this unit, which I don't think will honestly see much play. But I could be wrong. Maybe people will surprise me. That's my intuition is they'll continue to be not seen a lot. But they're reasonably costed at 145 for 5 with the capabilities they have. Like, they're a completely reasonable unit.
Again, with buffs.
I mean,
go ahead.
So yeah, if you have a unit of 10 and you want them to be putting out your Mind Razor, I mean, that's a pretty big block in the center of your army to touch whatever you need to do, wherever you want to go with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Really good mobility.
Mm-hmm.
Any other book or most other books, these are fantastically priced and would be a great pick.
Yeah, my problem, I have 2 problems. One, this is the Daughters of Khaine. I know they wrote lore for it. 2,
get these dudes out of here.
Yeah, and I know Tom did some great conversions, and I thought about doing it, but I just couldn't.
Oh.
Couldn't be asked to do that. 2, this is the only instance I can think of where we have a dual kit. This can also be
Split
the Dark
across
Riders.
armies.
This Doomfire should just be in cities.
Yeah.
Like, they should have never been here. I don't know why they were ever put here.
Completely agree.
I have 20, and it's just like I just can't bring myself to ever put them in a list.
Yeah. But like I said, if they suddenly started showing up, like if people started showing up with a 5-pack to power out a particular end the spell or some other or something like that, I wouldn't be like, what are they doing? That's crazy. That isn't, I would think like, oh, okay, cool. People did have the room, or they found a way to make it work. That's what I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, one little detail about it. Yeah, I believe the lore specifies Daughters of Khaine hero, and of course this is not a hero unit, so I don't believe they're getting access to the lore spells.
It does. Sorry, I'm thinking of the older books.
Okay.
I'm mixing it up. So no, the good correction. I throw one in. I throw like a unit of these in every once in a while into a list, and I'm never impressed. I've done that since every book. I've thrown just 5 or 10. Just
Keep
to see.
trying to make it work.
It's like maybe this time they'll do something amazing. And I want them, but nah. But yeah, no. Thanks for the correction on that, Tyler.
No, good call. Okay, so yes, they do not have that. I was going to look at that as well. Good call. All right, the Avatar of Khaine. This guy had an interesting little glow up. He's kind of a. I'll be interested to get everybody's take on this dude. 9-inch move, 9 wounds, 4-up save. Obviously, he doesn't need to be prayed to activate anymore. He just is. So cool. Still gets that, as we mentioned earlier, the +1 to chanting for people around him. Built-in 5-up ward. And he has this sort of non-monster actions, which is he can rampage, or he can monstrous rampage. This is a behemoth, by the way. He has a totem, so he can issue commands in a long range. So that's neat. But he can monstrous rampage, even though he's not actually a monster, which may matter very little for the life of this book. That is to say, like, right now it's important, but in clock is ticking, I don't know, a month and a week or something, perhaps. Who knows? You know, like, realistically, beginning of July was when the last GHB came out. So the time of the monster mattering may matter less, although he doesn't count. He counts as 2 for cap, not 5, which will probably remain and, you know, is important. But he can only do stomp or smash to rubble. The interesting thing is he cannot be picked to be the target of a monstrous rampage. Like, he has his own weird built-in Hunters of the Heartland, so he can't get other monstrous rampages against him. Yeah, I don't know what to think of this guy. He's 155. Tyler, what's your take on this guy? I think he's going to struggle to find a home, but go ahead.
Yeah, I love this guy, but I mean, I could see him being a part of a list with Witch Elves, Sisters of Slaughter, in the lines with the totem. I could, but more importantly, yeah, I mean, my playstyle has always predicated, I mean, with Sylvaneth, Stormcast, it's predicated on hitting from sides, from kind of the classic Warhammer Fantasy Dark Elf playstyle. And to me, this is a perfect piece for that. I've been playing a lot of Bastion Karthlos. You know, we had that discussion. What's the role for Bastion, right? What's he doing? Well, Bastion is an extraordinary distraction card effects. You buff him up, Warding Lantern, etc. You translocate him, you put him on a side. Often the times he's a piece that your opponent needs to deal with. He's so difficult to deal with. This is like a Bastion light piece to me. So I definitely could see this finding a home in Celebron, multiple ones finding a home in Celebron, where you're just kind of having a launchpad play style with these pieces. You're hitting them with Witch Brew, Sacrament of Blood. They have totems, so they can buff up themselves. They can operate independently. 9 wounds, 9-inch move, attack profile that's going to easily be on 2s and 2s, -2 and 3 damage, 4 attacks. With the buff, cannot be stomped or cannot be roared because of the Wrath of Khaine. Built-in 5-up board. I think it's an amazing piece for 155 personally. That's to me is one of those areas where I would love to see people trying out 2, 3, even 4 of these in a list to see how it goes. Just in terms of I think the play style that you could lean into and the impact that these could have in terms of around the battlefield. You know, killing chaff, going after small wound heroes, spreading your opponent out, minimizing what they can come into your lines with. Yeah, I think they've got a lot of play.
Okay. Chuck?
Yeah, I'm also a big fan. I think the only person that would rival that for me is wanting to include 2 more of these on the list besides Tyler here would be Chumphammer. He maxes them out all the time, but
Nice.
I love them. I ran them when you had to pray to activate them, and now I just look at it. It's cheaper because I don't have to also have a Hag Queen nearby to try and activate them. Granted, I could also give Witch Brew to it, and it was exciting to do that and watch it be choppy. But the 5-up ward gives a little bit more survivability, and just kind of like what Tyler said. I will run it next to a unit of Witch Elves. Not so much Sisters of Slaughter all the time. More Witch Elves just because they'll keep up better because you're gonna charge with both and all that.
The totem synergy, yeah.
Yeah, and I love the fact that it's a monster without being a monster in a weird way. Yeah, I get the actions because this army lacked the actions. Only the Shadow Queen could do it. So, yeah, I like that I can if I get in the back line of a Beast of Chaos. Okay, well, goodbye to your Herdstone there. Take out the boats. You know,
Sure.
It's nice to have those abilities and be willing to throw this at a monster because it can do decent damage to a monster. But knowing that if I die, I'm not, currently giving up the fact that I'm a monster too.
Sure. All right, I want to keep moving because my dogs are literally barking.
Gotcha.
Not my feet, just like my dogs want to go out and they're trapped down here with me. So we're gonna move with relative haste here. Okay, Bloodstalkers are Bloodstalkers. They're what you think they are. They're snakes, and they shoot, and they do mortal wounds on 6s to hit still. So there we are. And they're still 180 for 5, and their battle line, as mentioned earlier, with either the Melusai General or in Xantharkai. As we said earlier, probably should have moved that mortal wound to the wound roll, and that would be better. Or we should have made them 20 points more expensive. I would have accepted either.
180.
Sorry,
is
Tyler.
perfect.
Mortal wound shooting just needs to be more expensive. You can hate it all you want, but it's the case. Adjudicators are correctly pointed. Eat it.
Oh, they
So,
are. Yeah. But anyway, we won't get into it. Yeah.
Sure. Blood Sisters, though, now we're talking my language. Here we go, baby. So, the Glaives, 3 attacks, 3s, 3s, neg 1/1. You should just read that as 2s and 2s, because that's what it is. If you're fighting with these things in any reasonable way, if you've all tuned your list to use these things, it's 2s and 2s. And the important part here is after this unit has fought for the first time in a phase, and after all of its attacks have been resolved, you can pick one enemy unit within 1 inch of this unit, roll 1 dice for each model in the unit, not who's within an inch, just each model in the unit, and it's immediately after they fought. For each 2+, that enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. 2+. Crystal Touch.
And not at the end of combat now. That's my favorite part.
Yeah, not at the end of combat, not on a 3-up, just 2-up. Zip zap.
Not to mention all the ways you
opponent, I'd fight with him, and then he'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to go to be like, and I would just go like this. Give you the bad touch. Go ahead.
Not to mention the fact that you're probably, if you're taking them as your battle line, you're probably having things in the army that's going to give them extra attacks as well.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Yeah, just naturally. Yeah, like it's, yeah.
I mean, not that you really need it most of the time, but sure.
No, but you're more likely going to have something. You're like, oh yeah, I got extra attack now for fun on this unit.
Right. I agree. Like, cue the Transformers music. You do, in fact, have the touch. You've got the power. I love these so much. I love charging them in and keeping, like, a hero within an inch and then not attacking the hero at all. I attack the unit. Like, after the pile-in, pile into within an inch of the hero, you chop the unit to bits, and then you just turn to the hero and, like, and just turn him to stone. I also, you get, by the way, good song recommendations for when attacking with Blood Sisters. Certainly, You've Got the Touch from the Transformers soundtrack. I would also accept ELO's Turn to Stone. So all of those will work. At 140 for 5, I'm a buyer.
Just an inordinately powerful unit now with how all this works. What's the reasoning, Vince, for real quick why this works with the fight on death with Xantharkai?
It has to do with whether or not the individual model counts as the unit fighting, because that's where the trick comes in. Like, there's an FAQ question here. Okay, the trick is if it's the second time you fought, right? Like, if you already fought and then you go down to Xantharkai's Death Frenzy and you fight again, it definitely doesn't trigger. There's no question there, because it's only after the first time. The FAQ question comes into the fact, like, okay, well, this model's fighting. Is this model equivalent when it says after this unit has fought?
After this unit,
time? Right. That difference in wording. So my answer is, I don't know. It's worth an FAQ question. Like, raw, it probably doesn't trigger, but I could see it as, like, somebody saying, well, yeah, but it's fighting for the first time. Doesn't it feel like it should trigger? I don't know. Because they could I could see them FAQing it either way. Like, oh, the model's part of a unit. A unit consists of models. Right. If the model fought, the unit fought in some way, right? So hence it can activate. Like, it's sort of a squishy rules area. So
right on.
That's the discussion. I mean, like, if I'm playing it raw, I would not do it right now.
Sure. Right. Phenomenal unit. We're gonna see a lot of these.
Yep.
It's just the most raw power. Like, its first line of this battletome to me is 2+, Crystal Touch, not at the end of the combat phase.
Wonder if we'll see a lot of Blood Sisters with the quiver still attached, because people change bits out.
Hey, I built all melee snakes when I bought them kits, and I am ready to roll. I got a lot of melee snakes, so I'm in like Flynn. Good over here. No quivers on my girls. Although if I made bow snakes, I would attach the quivers anyways. I never put that crap on units. Hot tip number 1 to painting armies faster. Leave that useless crap off of your units. Okay. Heart renders and life takers, 95 and 90 points respectively. Heart renders in my mind still have a unit or still have a role. Life takers do not. So life takers used to obviously be a thing that you could like juice up and run their damage to the moon. All of those rules of like when they drop, they gain all this bonus crap. It's not like that anymore. It's just you can still set them up in reserve and they come down. They have to be down by the end of 3, yada yada. All that's still true. The trick is the life takers just don't have a very good melee profile and they're extremely fragile as 1 wound models with a 5-up save. They no longer have the shield kickback of mortals either, like they used to. And the trick with life takers is after they fight, you can roll a die, and on a 4+ they can retreat 6 inches, which is cool, but it's not every time. Whereas the heart renders can pop with their ranged attack because they've got a 12-inch range attack still. Now you don't get the bonus rend anymore, so it's just 5 shots on 3s and 3s, neg 1/1. Don't bet on it for a lot of damage. But then they can fire and flight automatically. They don't make the roll anymore. So now after they shoot, they can just move 6 inches, which is great.
Yeah. I think in isolation, the life takers are well pointed for what they are. Again, read that as essentially 11 attacks at 2s and 2s, -1 rend. Excellent flexibility. That's far better than Tree Revenants. Tree Revenants do nothing in combat at 80 points. So I think in isolation, yeah, it's a solid unit, but you're not going to see them that much, I don't think, unless, again, you have to shave off some points here or there, and you've got to go with the life takers. Yeah, heart renders, would love to see an MSU playstyle, like 4 units of these in a list, and you're leading into that idea of combo damage, dropping into it at a time, let's say 1 or 2 at a time, whittling down units on an objective from range, and then dropping these into nab objectives. I don't know, just kind of maybe something interesting there that you could do. But yeah, heart renders, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, life takers were never meant to be some offensive powered melee unit. Unfortunately, we just nerfed them a little too much, I think. Like now they fell to not having a role now.
I would still give them a look at their current points if they kept that bounce back mortal wounds, because they're going to die whether they go into.
Sure.
So like that would be the thing I'd wish they still had, to give them that look and be like, okay, I can throw a 5 in at a horde and bounce hopefully a bunch of wounds back, but that's about it.
Yeah, totally, Chuck. Yeah, but somebody tried to do that to me with 10 protectors, with a bucket of attacks. Just try to suicide 5 life takers in, and just to get me to roll a bucket of dice and try to roll as many 6s as they could. Anyway, it would be cool.
Did you just Star Soul Mace them to death? Because that would
be
the
rip those off,
appropriate response.
No, you have to roll out all your attacks. So.
Sure. Fair point. Pile in like away and bring the Star Souls in.
Sure, right. No, absolutely.
It's like
I know
okay, at any rate, because your unit still didn't go farther away, right? You just kind of swap the guys there.
Yeah.
Switch ranks.
Yeah.
At any rate, I mean, heart renders are still quite valid to me. I have 2 units of heart renders in my chosen list. I think the fact that they can drop and float automatically is good. It's not overpowered anyway because they're not doing mostly any damage when they come down for the most part. They're really just a tricky piece for sort of board objective control, threat, stuff like that, which I like. Again, that's part of the challenge. These guys fill the tree rev role to me actually a lot better than the Shadow Stalkers.
The Shadow Stalkers, yeah, sure.
Because they're about the same. They're where I want, right? I'm buying wholesale. I understand like wounds to point ratio, whatever, but in the end, I'm building a list of 2,000 points, right? That's what it comes down to. So I'm not building a list of 200 wounds or something, So, cool. Oops. All right. All right. Here's what I'm gonna do. Does anyone here in this current show want to defend the Viper or Bladewind?
Not in the current edition. I would have defended Blade Wreck Viper in the previous edition, not this edition.
Yeah, just too much for I feel what you're getting, and especially with the meta that we're generally expecting to be heading into in upcoming month. And so and Blade One, not interested, but Heart of Fury is a completely different story.
Sure. Like
Yeah.
I could see some small argument for Viper in that it weirdly counts as a monster and can stomp on someone. So if you have nobody else who can stomp, it can do a free D3 mortal wounds,
Yeah.
which would
Yeah.
make it better than most endless spells, because most endless spells actually struggle now to even do a D3 mortals.
Yeah.
But it's way overcosted. Like at 80 points, that is wild.
It's on a base 7, so as we've discussed, you're not
Yep.
able to benefit from Shadowstone on that. So you're just looking at a flat out 7, or you're looking at Doomfire Warlocks to get you a +1.
Yeah.
They have 5 more models, so
Yep.
yeah.
And Blade Wind is completely worthless. Get out of here with this nonsense. Okay, so we're not even gonna talk about it. It's so dumb. Heart of Fury, though. Now we're talking. Okay, so this is obviously an invocation, not a endless spell. Can often be brought out on an answer value of 2 because of your bonuses. And it's 45 points, and effectively gives you coalesced -1 damage like it did before, for the most part, during a phase, during combat specifically. So this I don't hate.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I think Heart of Fury is
Have it on my
actually
list, yeah.
pretty good.
It's going to be in a lot of lists. Yeah, this piece.
Like, again, it's actually a good defensive tool in an army without many defensive tools. That's relatively easy to control and get out. And even on the downside where it does blow itself up effectively, right?
You're getting something great on the way out.
Yeah, it gives you like a really great buff on the way out. Yeah.
Yep.
If we're truly moving toward, a quote unquote horde meta with a lot of 1 damage, then okay, maybe this doesn't make the cut as much as it would have in the season that we've just gone through. Which
I'm laughing at
absolutely is-
Frogom's comment. Viper is great. You can spend 80 points to level up your opponent's Kronspire incarnate.
That's good.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I'm a big fan of Heart of Fury, so it's in my current Kraith lists for sure.
Agreed. Okay. Real quick, there's all the points. All right, Tyler, I'm gonna give you like 3 minutes. Tyler, as we said, this is sort of a Timmy Johnny book.
Yeah.
Or sorry, Timmy Spike book. I apologize.
Spike, yeah.
Sort of a Timmy Spike book. But Tyler, ever the Johnny, was trying to build his Johnny list. So Tyler, 3 minutes. Take us through what you got here.
Right on. Well, this was just an example in terms of this challenge for the community. I mean, let's see if you love Marathi, do it, have fun. Let's see some non-Marathi list. This is a variety pack list. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different war scrolls. Well, the number I was talking with Vince, maybe Vault Wars next year, we do some kind of variety pack award. You got to have a minimum number
Isn't
of
it
different
10?
war scrolls.
Don't you have 10 different war scrolls?
Is it 10? Did I skip it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Oh, you're right.
Plus
9. Yeah,
Heart of
okay.
Fury.
Yeah, no, you're right. 9. Yep.
So-
Because you took Witch Elves instead of a unit of Sisters of Slaughter right there. You could have got up to 10. You got the points.
Absolutely, got the points for it. Yeah, should have done it. And I mean, there's a lot going on with this list. It's not as obvious, but again, it's leaning. I've talked a little bit about it on this episode. Celebron is the obvious Johnny play. You can lean into a number of different play styles with this. You've got your combo damage potential, Sevenfold Shadow with Bloodrock Medusa. There you go. We're going into Horde meta. That's going to be part of a combo piece with burning down a unit. 30 divided by 6, 5 mortal wounds right there. You've got your Bloodstalkers. You've got the Shadow Stalkers. That can be your teleport screen. Keep them screened off. You've got 2x10 Witch Elves. Good footprint, 25mm bases. You can get really good coverage. You can do double layered, protect yourself from a double turn. So that's why I did like Witch Elves rather than Liberators that are more just obvious anvils as allies. Incidentally, allies, I mean, that's a whole other show. I think there's a lot of ally choices to get some Johnny play with this army in general. 5 Heartrenders, that idea of the combo damage where, again, you whittle down a unit, you bring them in, you steal an objective. Avatar of Khaine, there's your distraction piece. I mean, you can use that a number of different ways. You've still got a huge armor unit with the 15 melee snakes that right there, Zealous Order, is, I mean, that's an immediate threat. It's difficult to burn through 15 of them. You can pull them out of combat in the next turn, regardless who's going. Bring them back up on a 4+. Yes, Crown of Woe's there, Sacrament of Blood to accelerate the table. Heart of Fury's there to minimize damage. You've got multiple pieces in Hunters. Like I just wanted to throw out, like, this is the first list that I wrote looking at the book. Throw out a list that has combined arms, that can do a number of different things and be a really interesting play style, I think, while running a wide range of the model range. I think there's many, many different lists like this. Some of them can be more thematic, leaning into, I mentioned Martin Wolf's Shadow Stalkers plus Avatars of Khaine. You could drop down from 15 Blood Snakes or 15 Melee Snakes to 2 Avatars of Khaine, to where you've got 2 distraction, harassment, objective, harasser, chaff killing, little hero killing pieces that are going around the table, while you've still got 10 Melee Snakes, 10 Bow Snakes, you've still got the Hagween on Cauldron. Yeah, I just think there's a ton of play with this kind of list. What's that?
Right on. Good. You did it. 3 minutes. You got there.
Excellent.
All right. Awesome. So there you go. That's Doc. I mean, overall, like I said, my summary would be honestly good internal balance. There are a few scrolls that I think are wrong in points. Like the High Gladiatrix needs to move up. Life Takers don't really have much of a role. Still interested to see what becomes of Doomfire Warlocks and whether people do start trying out the Avatar of Khaine. I think those are the big question marks in my mind. Great different choices on sub-factions. I hope we see a lot of different stuff played there. I like that there are multiple paths to victory, multiple different unit constructions and army constructions. Like it makes me happy as the melee snake person. I can run the list I want, but I know, Chuck, as you mentioned, you missed the big blocks of Witch Elves. That's back on the table again.
Yep.
Right. So, and it's funny because all 3 of us have talked about lists we like, and I don't think any of us have included Marathi in those lists. Not that she's bad, by the way. That's not at all what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's just the 3 lists we happen to love don't have Marathi in them, but I'm sure. But you've also obviously got that as an avenue as well. She's still a good piece. So really, I think it's a solid book. Gives a lot of different and valid options. It feels very glass cannon-y. It feels very Daughters of Khaine, what it should be. Mm-hmm. It will hit super hard in its turn and fear the hit back real bad.
Get used to losing models.
Yeah. Things will die.
I'll say I have nothing to add that you guys didn't already just elaborate perfectly. In the keep things short, what I will do is I'll ask everyone in chat right now, grab yourself a D6 that I'm sure you all have, like I do, just sitting on my desk, and I want you to roll it. All right? The 4+. Welcome to Kraith. You are now a Kraith player. If it's a 4+, drop it in the chat, hit a like. If you rolled a 3 or less, enjoy any other sub-faction, and also hit like.
Trying to indoctrinate more people into your Kraith cult.
And I actually just rolled a 5, so I'm still good.
There you go. You're fighting. Chuck has to start a new show after this, but it has the strike last effect. That's what that means. There you go.
I'm gonna commentate watching myself on this stream.
Right, exactly. You got to rewatch it afterward and commentary over the top. Oh, I really like this point. I think Vince is totally wrong here. Yeah, so don't forget to hit like. Don't forget to subscribe. Do all those fun things. Click buttons like it says up there in the corner. It's fun. Don't forget, we do have a Patreon if you want to support the channel. If it's hobby focused, so if you're interested in taking the next step on your hobby journey, it is review and feedback focused. We'd love to have you along on the journey. As always, very much appreciated for any support, whether it be just hitting that little button because it helps other people find the show, and that is always highly valuable. Thank you so much, Chuck, for coming on, brother. Really appreciated.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a blast to be back.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. I see you. Looks like you got some more Kraith inductees. A lot of 3s and 1s though, Chuck. A lot of 3s and 1s.
Okay, all right, it's fine. We'll get you eventually.
For all of you out there, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. As always,